Hello and welcome to Imagine Verse, your home for amazing stories. Today's story is, what if Harry Potter reincarnated in Supernatural as the Nephilim Warlock and married Joe Harvell and Charlie Bradberry? Don't forget to like this video if you enjoy it, and subscribe if you haven't already. We post new stories regularly. Let's get started. Chapter 1: Rebirth and Grace and Fire. Death wasn't what Harry Potter expected. No King's Cross station this time. No Dumbledore waiting with cryptic wisdom and twinkling eyes. Just a rushing sensation like being pulled through the eye of a needle, his very essence compressed into something impossibly small, then, explosion. Consciousness scattered across dimensions he couldn't comprehend. And then, rebirth. Jack Sullivan drew his first breath on a stormy October night, while his mother Elizabeth's screams mingled with thunder. The midwife dropped to her knees when she saw the child's eyes flash gold, luminous and ancient. The small cabin in the Montana wilderness trembled with power. "Angel child," the midwife whispered, crossing herself. "Heaven help us all." Elizabeth clutched her newborn to her chest, tears streaming down her face. "His father promised he'd return," she murmured. "He promised he'd protect us." The infant's eyes, now a familiar emerald green, gazed up at her with an impossible awareness. Inside the baby's mind, Harry Potter remembered everything. Jack Sullivan grew differently than other children. By 3, he could move objects with his mind. By 5, he could heal small animals with a touch. His mother, a practicing witch in the American tradition, recognized power when she saw it, but this was something else entirely. "Your father was special," she would tell him, braiding protective charms into Jack's unruly black hair. "An angel who walked the earth. He loved humanity, loved me, enough to fall." Jack nodded, accepting this truth while holding another. He remembered Hogwarts. Remembered Ron and Hermione. Remembered dying at Voldemort's hand and then choosing to return, only to find himself reborn into a different world entirely. A world where magic wasn't hidden in a parallel society but woven throughout reality in different, darker ways. "Mom," 7-year-old Jack asked one night as Elizabeth drew angel wards around their cabin, "why do we hide?" Elizabeth paused, chalk dust whitening her fingers. "Because angels are warriors, baby. Not the fluffy-winged guardians from greeting cards. They're soldiers who follow orders without question. And Nephilim, children like you, are forbidden. Because we're too powerful?" His mother's smile held sadness. "Because you represent choice. Free will. The very thing they're afraid of." Jack understood choice. Harry Potter had made the ultimate choice, walking to his death willingly. Now Jack had been given something rare, a second chance with full awareness of his past. He decided early on that he wouldn't waste it. At 13, Jack lost his mother to a demon attack. They came in the night, black smoke pouring under doorframes despite the protective wards. Elizabeth fought fiercely, her witch's power flaring bright, but there were too many. "Run!" she screamed as hellfire consumed the cabin walls. "Find hunters, Jack. People who understand." "Fine." Her words cut off as the demon possessing the body of their neighbor twisted her neck with a sickening crack. Something broke inside Jack. The careful control his mother had taught him shattered like glass. Power exploded outward, raw Nephilim grace tangled with his warlock abilities and the echo of Harry Potter's magic. Gold light erupted from his eyes and palms. The demons shrieked as they burned from within, orange light flickering beneath their host's skin before they collapsed. Jack fell to his knees beside his mother's body, sobbing as he tried to push his healing power into her broken form. But death had already claimed her, just as it had once claimed him. Some thresholds, Jack realized, couldn't be crossed twice. 5 years passed. Jack learned to hunt. He traveled the country with a duffel bag containing everything he owned: clothes, weapons, his mother's grimoire, and a leather-bound journal where he documented the differences between this world and the wizarding world he'd known. The monsters were different here. Magic followed different rules. But death remained a constant companion. At 18, Jack had grown tall and lean, his features a blend of Elizabeth Sullivan's delicate beauty and his angelic father's strength. His black hair remained untamable, and behind wire-rimmed glasses, his eyes shifted between emerald green and luminous gold depending on his mood and power use. The lightning bolt scar that had marked Harry Potter was absent, a small mercy in this new life. He'd learned to modulate his abilities, drawing on different aspects when needed. His Nephilim grace gave him enhanced strength, telekinesis, and healing powers. His warlock heritage, through his mother, connected him to earth magic and spellcraft. And somewhere deep within, the echo of Harry Potter's wizarding magic remained, different in form but familiar in essence. Jack walked the line between worlds, belonging fully to none. In Lincoln, Nebraska, he tracked a ghoul to its feeding ground in an abandoned slaughterhouse. The creature had killed 3 people already, assuming their identities briefly before moving to new prey. Jack followed blood trails through rusted machinery, sawed-off shotgun loaded with consecrated iron rounds in his hands. Hunters usually work in pairs, a voice called from the shadows. Jack spun, power gathering in his free hand, gold light illuminating the darkness. A young woman stepped into view, blonde hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, sawed-off shotgun matching his own aimed steadily at his chest. "You're glowing," she observed flatly. "That's not normal, even for this place." Jack extinguished the Nephilim power with a thought. "I work alone. Stupid policy in this line of work." She didn't lower her gun. "Name's Joe. Joe Harvell. And you're on my hunt?" "Jack Sullivan." He relaxed slightly, recognizing her surname from Hunter Whispers. "Harvelle, as in Harvelle's Roadhouse?" "My mom's place." Joe's eyes narrowed. "Never seen you there. I keep to myself." "Yeah, well," Joe's retort cut short as something large crashed through the wall behind them. The ghoul had circled around, its face a grotesque mockery of its last victim, teeth elongated into needle-like points. It lunged for Joe, who fired smoothly, the shot catching it in the shoulder but not slowing it down. Jack dropped his shotgun and reached for power instinctively. Not the golden light of his angelic side, too conspicuous, but the warlock magic he'd inherited from his mother. With a flick of his fingers, he sent the creature flying backward into a hanging hook, impaling it through the chest. The ghoul thrashed, screaming with its victim's stolen voice. "Head!" Joe snapped, stepping forward with a machete. "You have to take the head." With a practiced swing, she separated the ghoul's head from its shoulders. Black blood sprayed across the concrete floor, hissing slightly where it landed. Joe turned to Jack, wiping her blade on her jeans. "So, not just a hunter. What are you exactly?" Jack hesitated. In 5 years of hunting, he'd avoided questions like this. Avoided attachments. The weight of 2 lives, Harry Potter's and Jack Sullivan's, made connections complicated. But something about Joe Harvell's direct gaze made him pause. He remembered Ron and Hermione. Remembered what it meant to have people at your back. "It's complicated," he finally said. "But I'm one of the good guys." Joe snorted. "Everyone thinks that about themselves. Even the monsters sometimes." She sheathed her machete. "Buy me a drink and convince me." The bar wasn't the Roadhouse, but a dim local place with sticky floors and Creedence Clearwater Revival playing from ancient speakers. Joe claimed a corner booth while Jack brought back 2 beers and a basket of something claiming to be chicken wings. "So," Joe said, taking a pull from her bottle, "you moved that thing without touching it. And your eyes did a little light show earlier." Jack sighed. "You don't start small, do you? In hunting, starting small gets you dead." He studied her, early 20s like him, but with a weariness that came from growing up in the life. Harry Potter had worn that same expression after losing Sirius. After the graveyard. After too many deaths. "My father was an angel," Jack said finally, deciding on partial truth. "My mother was a natural witch. I'm both, I guess." Joe's eyebrows shot up. "Angels aren't real." "They are. They're just not what people think." Jack peeled the label from his beer bottle, a nervous habit. "They don't interfere much. Heaven has rules. And your dad broke them." Joe didn't phrase it as a question. Jack nodded. Nephilim are forbidden. When demons killed my mother 5 years ago, I went off the grid. Started hunting. Why hunting? With your mojo, you could do anything. It was a fair question. Harry Potter had wanted to be an Auror, to protect people. Jack Sullivan wasn't so different. Because I know what's out there, he said simply. And I can help. Joe studied him with sharp brown eyes. My dad was a hunter. Got killed when I was a kid. Mom runs the Roadhouse now, kind of a way station for hunters. Information, supplies, occasionally medical care that doesn't involve hospitals asking questions. I've heard of it. Never been. You should stop by sometime. Joe took another swig of beer. Mom's good at spotting liars, though, so you might want to work on your story first. Jack tensed. What makes you think I'm lying? You're not lying exactly. Just editing heavily. She leaned forward. Your eyes change color when you use different abilities. Gold for the angel stuff. Green for what I'm guessing is witch magic. You switch between them like changing channels. That kind of control takes more than just 5 years of practice. Perceptive. Dangerously so. In his first life, Harry had been rubbish at occlumency, too transparent with his emotions. Jack wasn't much better at hiding his nature. It's complicated, he repeated. It always is. Joe's phone buzzed. She checked it and grimaced. Got another job. Possible vampire nest outside Omaha. She slid from the booth and tossed some bills on the table. You coming or what? Jack blinked in surprise. You want to hunt together? After what I just told you? Joe shrugged. You had plenty of chances to hurt me back there if that was your plan. And I've never hunted with someone who can toss monsters around with their mind before. Could be useful. Her smile was quick and sharp. Unless you're scared? The challenge in her voice triggered memories of another life. Hermione's exasperation, Ron's loyalty, Ginny's fierce determination. For a moment, homesickness overwhelmed him. Not scared, Jack said, standing. Just surprised. Hunters aren't exactly known for trusting the supernatural. I'm not trusting you, Joe clarified, heading for the door. I'm using you. Big difference. Jack laughed despite himself and followed her into the night. The vampire nest turned into a Wendigo hunt when their information proved faulty. From there, they tracked a skinwalker across 3 state lines. Somehow, one hunt became 2, then 5, then a partnership that neither acknowledged but both relied upon. Joe was brilliant in the field, quick thinking, fearless to the point of recklessness, and skilled with every weapon she touched. Jack found himself using abilities he'd kept dormant for years, no longer hiding his nature as carefully. He still measured what he revealed, but it felt good to use his full range of powers again. So Angel Daddy gave you the telekinesis and the smitey hand thing, Joe said one night as they cleaned weapons in a motel outside Tulsa. And which Mom gave you the spell work? But what's with the Latin stuff? Jack paused in reassembling his shotgun. What Latin stuff? You mutter under your breath sometimes before doing magic. Sounds like Latin, but not like any exorcism rites I know. Jack had slipped. The echo of wizarding spells sometimes surfaced when he was tired or stressed. Wingardium Leviosa, Expelliarmus, Accio. The muscle memory of wand movements occasionally accompanied his warlock gestures. Old habits, he said vaguely. My mother taught me different magical traditions. Joe didn't push, but her expression said she was filing the information away. 3 months into their partnership, they took a rare break at Harvelle's Roadhouse. Jack had been avoiding the Hunter Hub, concerned about exposing himself to too many people who specialized in killing the supernatural. But Joe insisted. Mom's starting to think I made you up, she said as they parked her beaten pickup truck outside the wooden structure. Country music and the smell of beer wafted from the open door. Just let her meet you, then we can head out for that werewolf case in Michigan. Ellen Harvelle was exactly as formidable as Jack expected. Shrewd eyes and a weathered face, shotgun within easy reach under the bar, and a protective aura that reminded him painfully of Molly Weasley. So you're the stray my daughter picked up, Ellen said, sliding beers across the counter without asking what they wanted. Heard you've got some special talents. Jack shot Joe a look, who shrugged unapologetically. Mom knows everything eventually. Figured I'd save time. Ellen's gaze never left Jack's face. Joanna Beth says you're part angel. That true? The Roadhouse wasn't empty. A few hunters occupied corner tables, maps and journals spread between whiskey bottles. Jack lowered his voice. Yes, ma'am. My father was an angel, my mother a witch. I was born with certain abilities. And why exactly should I be comfortable with you hunting with my daughter? Before Jack could answer, the Roadhouse door banged open. A hunter staggered in, blood soaking his flannel shirt. Need help? He gasped before collapsing. Ellen vaulted over the bar with surprising agility. Ash. Get the med kit. Joe was already kneeling beside the man, putting pressure on what appeared to be deep claw marks across his chest. Werewolf. She muttered. Looks like Michigan came to us. He's losing too much blood, Ellen said grimly. Ash, call Dr. Harrison. Tell him we've got another hunting accident. Jack moved forward, kneeling opposite Joe. I can help. Ellen's hand went to her shotgun. What do you mean? I can heal him. Jack met Ellen's suspicious gaze steadily. It's one of my abilities. But you'll need to give me space. Joe nodded to her mother. Let him try. With reluctant permission granted, Jack placed his hands over the wounded hunter's chest. He closed his eyes, drawing on the warm golden power of his Nephilim grace. It flowed through him differently than magic had flowed through Harry Potter, less directed and more instinctual. His palms began to glow, light seeping between his fingers and into the man's wounds. The hunter gasped, back arching as torn flesh knitted together under Jack's touch. The process took less than a minute, leaving only blood-stained skin where deadly gashes had been. The Roadhouse had gone silent. Every hunter present stared at Jack, whose eyes still shimmered with fading gold light. Well, Ellen said after a moment, that was something. The healed hunter scrambled backward, eyes wide with fear. What the hell are you? Jack stood slowly, hands raised to show he meant no harm. Just someone who can help. He's with me, Joe said firmly, stepping to Jack's side. He's a monster. Another hunter growled, reaching for a weapon. He just saved Parker's life. Ellen snapped. So everyone calmed the hell down. She turned to Jack. Though I think we need to have a longer conversation now. Ellen's conversation happened in the Roadhouse's back room, with Ash stationed outside to make sure no trigger-happy hunters interrupted. Joe insisted on being present, leaning against the door with arms crossed. Start at the beginning, Ellen said, sitting across from Jack at a small table. And don't leave anything important out. Jack hesitated. How far back was the beginning? Harry Potter's life in another reality? His rebirth as Jack Sullivan? His mother's death? My mother was Elizabeth Sullivan. He started. A natural witch from a Montana coven. My father was an angel named Anael who fell in love with humanity more than most of his kind. They knew their relationship was forbidden, but... He shrugged. Love makes people reckless. Angels, Ellen repeated skeptically. With wings and halos. Wings, yes. Halos, not exactly. Jack smiled slightly. They're warriors, primarily. Dangerous ones. And they consider Nephilim, half-angel children, abominations because we can become more powerful than our angelic parents. And are you? Ellen asked pointedly. More powerful? Jack thought of the magic he'd wielded as Harry Potter, the prophecy that had marked him as Voldemort's equal. The power that had transferred to this new life, merging with Nephilim grace and warlock abilities. I don't know my limits, he admitted. I've been careful not to find out. Ellen studied him. Your healing trick will make you popular with hunters. It'll also paint a target on your back. Some will want to use you. Others will want to hunt you. I know the risks. Do you? Ellen leaned forward. Because my daughter seems attached to you, which means your risks become her risks. Joe rolled her eyes. Mom, no, she's right. Jack interrupted. I've been selfish, letting you hunt with me. I should have. Oh, shut up. Joe pushed off from the door. Nobody lets me do anything. I make my own choices. Always have. Ellen sighed, the sound heavy with a mother's worry. Just be careful, both of you. And Jack. Her expression softened marginally. Thank you for saving Parker. Not many with your kind of power would bother helping hunters. It was as close to acceptance as he was likely to get. That night, they took the Michigan werewolf case after all, following Parker's information to an abandoned industrial park where 3 werewolves had established territory. The hunt went smoothly until it didn't, the alpha female more clever than expected, leading them into a trap where the pack surrounded them. 2 o'clock! Joe shouted, firing silver bullets into a charging werewolf. Jack spun, instinctively raising his hand. Protego! The shield charm erupted from his palm, not the invisible barrier of wizarding magic but a translucent golden wall of Nephilim power that sent a werewolf bouncing backward. Joe dispatched it with clinical efficiency, then gave Jack a look. Latin again. That's new. Old habits, Jack repeated before sending another werewolf flying with telekinesis. The alpha circled them warily, intelligence gleaming in its amber eyes. It lunged suddenly, not at them but at the support beam beside them. The rotting industrial ceiling groaned. Move! Jack shouted, shoving Joe aside as tons of concrete and steel collapsed. Pain exploded through his body as a steel beam pinned him to the floor. Joe scrambled to her feet, firing her last silver rounds into the alpha as it prepared for another attack. The creature fell, twitching, as Ellen's training proved its worth. Jack! Joe was suddenly beside him, face pale as she assessed the damage. Don't move! He coughed, tasting blood. The beam had caught him across the chest, crushing ribs and puncturing a lung. Fatal injuries for a human. Serious even for him. Can't exactly go dancing, he gasped. Can you heal yourself? Like you did Parker? Jack tried to access his Nephilim grace, but the pain scattered his concentration. Need focus. Joe gripped his hand. Then focus on me. We've got more hunting to do, remember? You promised to show me how you do that fire trick with your hands. Jack's vision blurred. He'd never promised that. But her voice gave him something to anchor to. He reached for his power, feeling it stutter and spark like a failing engine. Come on, Joe urged. You survived being half angel in a world of hunters. You're not checking out because of bad architecture. Something about her fierce refusal to let him die broke through the pain. Jack pulled on every power source he had, Nephilim grace, warlock magic, and deep beneath, the core of what had once made Harry Potter a wizard. Golden light flared beneath his skin, running like luminous veins through his body. The beam above him trembled, then flew sideways as his telekinesis returned. Jack gasped as his ribs realigned, punctured organs knitting themselves whole. He sat up, shirt in tatters and covered in blood, but alive. Joe's expression cycled rapidly through relief, amazement, and finally settled on irritation. Next time, maybe use your super strength before the ceiling falls on us. Jack laughed, then winced as newly healed ribs protested. I'll add it to the battle plan. Joe helped him stand, supporting more of his weight than necessary. You know, she said conversationally, normal hunting partnerships worry about things like running out of ammo or getting rabies shots. Not whether their partner is secretly some kind of magical angel hybrid. Nephilim Warlock, Jack corrected, leaning on her more than he wanted to admit. And there's nothing normal about you either, Joe Harvell. She snorted but didn't pull away. Let's get out of here before animal control shows up. You can buy me breakfast and explain what protego means. They didn't make it to breakfast. 3 miles from the industrial park, their truck sputtered and died on a lonely stretch of highway. Jack popped the hood while Joe tried the ignition again. Fuel line's shot, he called after a cursory examination. And something's wrong with the electrical system. Joe swore and got out, kicking the tire for good measure. Middle of nowhere, no cell service. Perfect. Jack leaned against the truck, fatigue from healing himself still weighing on his limbs. I could try to fix it with magic, but mechanical repairs aren't my specialty. Worth a shot. He placed his hands on the engine, focusing on his warlock abilities rather than Nephilim power. Green light flickered around his fingers as he murmured an improvised spell. The engine clicked but didn't turn over. Sorry, he sighed. I need more specific knowledge of what's wrong. Jo tilted her head, studying him. Your eyes change color with different powers. Gold for angel stuff, green for witch stuff. Jack tensed. You mentioned that before. But sometimes, when you're tired or surprised, they flash a different green. Brighter. And you say Latin words. She stepped closer. There's something else, isn't there? Something you're not telling me. The question hung between them, weighted with months of partnership built on partial truths. Jack thought of Harry Potter's friends, how they had stood by him through everything, even when the truth seemed impossible. Before he could decide how much to reveal, headlights appeared on the dark road. A battered van pulled alongside them, its driver rolling down the window. A red-haired woman in her 20s peered out. Car trouble? I'd offer to help, but my mechanical skills are limited to restarting my laptop when it freezes. Fuel line, I think, Jo said. Any chance you're heading toward Lansing? Better. I have a satellite phone you can use to call a tow. The woman reached into the passenger seat and held out a chunky device. Name's Charlie, by the way. Charlie Bradberry. I'm heading to a LARPing event, got lost, and now I'm apparently rescuing stranded motorists like some kind of nerd knight-errant. Jo took the phone gratefully. Joe Harvell. And this is Jack Sullivan. Charlie's friendly smile faltered when she looked at Jack, her eyes widening slightly. Whoa. You're, glowing a little. Around the edges. Jack immediately dampened his still-active Nephilim power, cursing his lack of control. Healing major injuries always left his energy unstable. It's the moonlight. He lied. Weird reflection. Charlie looked unconvinced but didn't press. So, tow truck? Or I could give you a ride if you're not serial killers. You don't look like serial killers, but I watch a lot of true crime podcasts, so fair warning. We're not killers, Jo assured her, then paused. Well, not of humans anyway. Charlie laughed nervously. That's not completely reassuring. We hunt monsters, Jack explained, ignoring Joe's warning look. Something about Charlie felt trustworthy, a resonance he couldn't explain. Werewolves, actually, tonight. Right. Charlie drummed her fingers on the steering wheel. So you're either completely delusional or, wait. Her expression shifted from skepticism to curiosity. Actual werewolves? Like Silver Bullet, full moon werewolves? Jo sighed. We really need that tow. No, wait. Charlie killed the engine and got out of the van. She was wearing a t-shirt with the words Vala Morgulis across the front. You're serious, aren't you? You hunt monsters. Like for real? Jack nodded slowly. For real. Charlie's face lit up. That is both terrifying and awesome. Mostly terrifying. Is that blood on your shirt? Mine, Jack admitted. Building collapsed on me. And you're walking around? Charlie looked him up and down. Either you have Wolverine-level healing or he's not entirely human. Jo finished. Look, Charlie, you seem nice, but this is dangerous information. People who know about what's really out there tend to end up involved, whether they want to be or not. Charlie considered this, biting her lip. I work in IT. The most dangerous thing in my life is carpal tunnel and caffeine overdose. But I've always felt like, I don't know, like there should be more. Like I'm waiting for an adventure to start. She squared her shoulders. So maybe this is it. My origin story. Jack couldn't help smiling. Her enthusiasm reminded him of how he'd felt receiving his Hogwarts letter, that first glimpse of a world bigger and more wondrous than he'd imagined. The adventure usually involves a lot of running, bleeding, and nightmares, he warned. So does a marathon. Charlie shrugged. I didn't do well at those either, but here we are. Joe looked between them, exasperated. Are we seriously recruiting a civilian because our truck broke down? Ellen will kill me. Not recruiting, Jack clarified. Just being honest. Charlie clapped her hands together. Okay, new plan. You can both crash at my motel tonight. It's like 10 minutes from here. I have snacks, a first aid kit, and approximately 1 million questions about monsters. Tomorrow, we can deal with your truck situation. Joe and Jack exchanged glances. They were tired, Jack was still healing, and they needed somewhere to regroup. Fine, Joe decided. But I'm keeping my weapons. I would honestly be disappointed if you didn't. Charlie grinned. This is going to be epic. Charlie's motel room was plastered with printouts of maps and medieval costume designs. A laptop hummed on the desk beside containers of half-eaten Chinese food. Welcome to base camp, she announced, shoving papers aside to make room. LARPing event starts tomorrow. I'm playing Queen of Moons. She struck a regal pose, then immediately ruined it by tripping over a prop sword. Still working on the majestic part. While Joe called Ellen to update her on their situation, Jack sank gratefully onto the room's single chair. His body had healed the major damage, but exhaustion remained. Charlie handed him a bottle of water and a granola bar. So, hunting monsters. How does one get into that line of work? Is there like a monster hunting university? Trade school? Craigslist ad? Family business for some, Jack said, thinking of Joe. For others, personal experience with the supernatural. And you? Charlie perched on the edge of the bed. Family or personal experience? Jack took a long drink of water. Both. Charlie nodded sagely. Mysterious backstory. Got it. She turned to her laptop. So what's real? Vampires? Ghosts? Jinn? Zombies? Please say zombies aren't real. I have very specific apocalypse plans that rely on zombies being fictional. Most legends have some truth, Jack explained, relaxing slightly. Charlie's enthusiasm was oddly comforting, though rarely exactly as pop culture portrays them. Joe finished her call and joined them. Mom says hello, she told Jack dryly. Also, she'll skin you alive if you get me killed. Protective mom, check, Charlie noted. So, what's the hierarchy here? Who's the boss? The Buffy? The Giles? We're partners, Joe said firmly. Equal partners. Jack raised an eyebrow. This was the first time Joe had defined their relationship as a partnership rather than a temporary arrangement. It felt significant. Charlie looked between them with growing interest. Partners like we hunt together partners, or partners like hunting partners. Joe interrupted, cheeks flushing slightly. Just hunting. For now, Charlie said with a knowing smile. So, Jack? Joe mentioned you're not entirely human. Care to elaborate for those of us new to the monster manual? Jack hesitated, glancing at Joe, who shrugged as if to say your call. He'd been hiding so long, first as Harry Potter concealing magic from the Dursleys, then as Jack Sullivan hiding his true nature from hunters. The weight of secrets pressed heavily. I'm a Nephilim, he said finally. Half angel, half human. My mother was also a witch, so I have those abilities too. Charlie stared at him. Angels are real? Like biblically real? Yes. Holy Spock. Charlie fell back on the bed. That's wow. Can you show me something? A demonstration of angelness? Jack extended his hand, allowing a small ball of golden light to form above his palm. It illuminated the room with a warm glow that felt like sunlight. Charlie sat up, mesmerized. That's beautiful. Jack closed his hand, extinguishing the light. It's just energy manipulation. The more impressive powers are more destructive. Like what? Smiting demons, Joe supplied. Throwing werewolves across rooms. Healing fatal injuries. Charlie's eyes widened. You can heal people? Like Wolverine style? It drains me, Jack admitted. But yes. That's why you survive hunting. Charlie realized. Supernatural healing factor. She looked at Joe. But you're fully human? Joe nodded. Just well trained. Badass normal. Respect. Charlie turned back to Jack. So what's your deal? Why hunt monsters when you could be, I don't know, using angel powers to become a billionaire or something? It was the same question Joe had asked months ago. Jack's answer hadn't changed. Because I can help, he said simply. And because I understand what it feels like to be hunted for what you are rather than what you've done. Charlie's expression softened. That's actually really noble. She looked between them. You guys are like real-life superheroes. With more flannel and less spandex. Joe rolled her eyes, but Jack caught the hint of a smile. We should get some rest. Tomorrow we'll need to retrieve our weapons from the truck and figure out transportation. I could drive you, Charlie offered. After my LARPing event. It's just for the weekend. We don't want to interrupt your plans, Jack said. Are you kidding? Finding out monsters are real and meeting an actual half-angel is way more interesting than pretending to be medieval royalty. Charlie paused. Though the LARPing is still happening. I've been working on my costume for months. Joe looked skeptical. You're taking this awfully well. Charlie shrugged. I live for this stuff. Fantasy, adventure, magic, it's why I game, why I LARP. Finding out it's real. She gestured expressively. It's like discovering Hogwarts exists. Jack stiffened involuntarily at the mention of Hogwarts. Joe, ever observant, caught his reaction. What? Charlie asked, looking between them. Did I say something wrong? No, Jack assured her. Just brought back memories. Joe's gaze sharpened with interest, but she didn't press. They arranged sleeping accommodations. Charlie insisted Jack take the bed since he was injured, while she and Joe would share the pull-out couch. As Jack drifted toward sleep, he heard the women talking softly. So how long have you been hunting with him? Charlie asked. Few months, Joe answered. He's different. Angel different or just regular different? Both. He knows things, skills that take years to master. And sometimes he looks at things like... Joe hesitated. Like he's seeing ghosts. Not actual ghosts, we deal with those all the time. But memories. Mysterious past. Very Winchester. Charlie yawned. Is that a hunter thing? The brooding backstory? Winchester? Joe sounded confused. You know hunters? What? No. It's a gun. I meant like gun. Hunter. Bad joke. Their voices faded as exhaustion claimed Jack. His dreams mixed memories, Harry's and Jack's intertwining until he couldn't separate them. Hogwarts Castle stood beside his mother's Montana cabin. Ron and Hermione walked with Joe through the Forbidden Forest, hunting werewolves. And above it all, a sense of approaching danger, wings beating against a blood-red sky. Dawn broke with the sound of Charlie typing furiously on her laptop. Jack opened his eyes to find her cross-legged on the couch, Joe still asleep beside her. Morning, Angel Boy. Charlie whispered. Hope I didn't wake you. Jack sat up carefully, pleased to find his body had mostly recovered. What are you working on? Research. Charlie turned her screen to show dozens of open browser tabs. Nephilim lore. Angel references. Hunter forums. Did you know there are actual hunter forums? It's like Reddit for monster killers. Those forums are mostly populated by role-players and wannabes. Jack said, moving to peer over her shoulder. Real hunters don't broadcast their activities online. Makes sense. Still fascinating, though. Charlie clicked through a page of biblical references. So according to this, Nephilim are the offspring of angels and humans, mentioned in Genesis. The heroes of old, men of renown. But also considered abominations by heaven. Jack nodded grimly. Angels aren't supposed to reproduce with humans. It creates beings with too much power and free will, a combination heaven finds threatening. Are there others like you? Not that I've found. My father was unusual. He genuinely loved humanity. Most angels view humans as lesser beings. Jack shrugged. Expendable. Charlie considered this. So you're basically Harry Potter. The boy who lived, marked as different, potentially more powerful than the establishment wants. Jack froze. The parallel was too close, too accurate to be coincidental. Had Charlie somehow sensed the truth? But her expression showed only casual interest, not recognition. Something like that, he managed. Joe stirred on the couch, saving Jack from further explanation. She blinked awake, automatically reaching for the knife she kept under her pillow. Morning, sunshine, Charlie chirped. I've been getting a crash course in biblical beings from your partner. Joe grunted and pushed herself upright. Any coffee in this establishment? Vending machine down the hall. I'll grab some. Charlie bounced to her feet. Black for you, I'm guessing? Jack, preferences? Same. He nodded, grateful for the interruption. When Charlie left, Joe fixed Jack with a penetrating stare. You nearly jumped out of your skin when she mentioned Harry Potter. Jack sighed. The moment had come sooner than he'd expected. It's complicated. You keep saying that. Try me. Jack ran a hand through his messy black hair, a gesture that had carried over from his previous life. How to explain reincarnation with memories intact? How to describe a parallel world where magic worked differently? I wasn't always Jack Sullivan, he began carefully. Before I was born here, I had another life. Another name. Joe's eyebrows rose. Reincarnation? Seriously? With full memory retention. Jack met her gaze steadily. I was born as Harry Potter in a world where magic existed differently. Wizards and witches lived in hiding, attending schools like Hogwarts to learn spellcraft. I died fighting a dark wizard named Voldemort, and then I was reborn here. As Jack. Joe stared at him for a long moment. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. And I hunt monsters for a living. I know how it sounds. Prove it. Jack held out his hand, concentrating on the familiar feeling that had once channeled through a phoenix feather wand. Lumos, he whispered. A small ball of light, different from his Nephilim power, more concentrated and blue-tinged, appeared above his palm. Nox. The light extinguished. Joe's expression remained skeptical. That could just be another angel trick. Fair point. Jack thought for a moment, then said, My best friends were Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger. My godfather was Sirius Black. I played a sport called Quidditch on flying broomsticks. I had a lightning bolt scar on my forehead from surviving a killing curse as a baby. The words tumbled out, memories he'd kept locked away for years. That could be an elaborate fantasy. Yes, Jack admitted. It could be. I have no way to prove it beyond showing you my abilities. The Latin spells are remnants of that life, muscle memory that surfaces when I'm stressed or tired. Joe studied him. Why tell me now? Because I'm tired of hiding who I am. And because... Jack hesitated, then pushed forward. Because I trust you. More than I've trusted anyone in this world. The door opened as Charlie returned with 3 steaming cups. Coffee delivery. Did I miss anything important? Joe and Jack exchanged glances. Just comparing notes on the werewolf case. Joe said smoothly, accepting her cup. Charlie looked disappointed. No new monster revelations? No angel secrets? Not yet, Jack said, relieved for the interruption. Joe needed time to process what he'd told her. Charlie set down her cup and grabbed her costume bag. Well, I need to get ready for the LRP. Royal duties await. You two figure out your truck situation, and I'll meet you back here tonight? Sounds good. Joe nodded. And Charlie, thanks. For everything. Charlie beamed. Hey, any day I meet real monster hunters and a half-angel is a good day in my book. She paused at the door. Though if you could avoid mentioning me to any vengeful supernatural entities, that would be great. My health insurance definitely doesn't cover monster-related injuries. After she left, silence stretched between Joe and Jack. So, Joe finally said. Harry Potter. Jack Sullivan now, he corrected. Harry died. I have his memories, but I'm not him anymore. Joe nodded slowly. And this other world, it had different magic? Structured differently. Wands to focus power, specific incantations, potions. No angels or demons that I knew of. Different monsters. Jack smiled faintly. No hunters either. Just Oris, wizard law enforcement. And you were what? Some kind of wizard cop? I was training to be one. Before I died. Jack looked down at his hands, hands that had held a wand, that now channeled Nephilim grace and warlock magic. I was prophesied to defeat a dark wizard. When I did, I thought I'd have a normal life ahead. Instead, I got this one. Joe was silent for a long moment. I don't know if I believe you, she said finally. But it explains things. The way you fight. How you know things no rookie hunter should know. Your weird Latin muttering. I understand skepticism. But here's the thing, Joe continued. I've seen you fight. I've seen you put yourself between civilians and monsters. I've seen you heal people who would just as soon put a bullet in you if they knew what you were. She shrugged. So maybe you're crazy. Maybe you're telling the truth. Either way, you're still the best hunting partner I've ever had. Relief washed through Jack. He hadn't realized how much Joe's acceptance meant to him until that moment. Partners, then? He asked, extending his hand. Joe took it, her grip firm. Partners. But you're buying breakfast. And explaining exactly how flying broomsticks work. They spent the morning retrieving their weapons from the abandoned truck and arranging for repairs. By afternoon, they were back at Charlie's motel, planning their next move. Michigan werewolves are handled, Joe said, crossing them off her list. Mom called about a possible ghost case in Iowa. Jack nodded, but his attention was elsewhere. Since revealing his past to Joe, memories of his life as Harry Potter had been surfacing more frequently. The parallels between his situations, marked as different, fighting dark forces, were difficult to ignore. Earth to Jack. Joe waved her hand in front of his face. You with me? Sorry. Just thinking. About your wizard past? Joe asked, her tone neutral. She hadn't brought it up again since their morning conversation, processing in her own way. Partly. Also about Charlie. What about her? Jack hesitated. She reminds me of friends from before. Curious. Brave. Accepting. You want to tell her? It wasn't a question, but Jack nodded anyway. Not everything. But she deserves to know what she's getting into by associating with us. Joe considered this. Charlie seemed solid. And having someone with her tech skills could be useful. She shrugged. Your call, Harry. Jack winced at the name. Please don't call me that. Sorry. Joe's expression softened. Old habit. The door burst open as Charlie rushed in, still wearing parts of an elaborate medieval costume. Her face was pale, eyes wide with panic. We have a problem. She gasped. A big, murdery problem. Joe was on her feet instantly, knife in hand. What happened? There's a thing, a monster, at the LARP event. Charlie stripped off her velvet cloak with shaking hands. It killed Marcus, the guy playing the Shadow King. I found his body behind the pavilion. His throat was. She swallowed hard. Torn out? Jack guessed. Charlie nodded mutely. Could be another werewolf. Joe suggested. Full moon was last night, but some can partially transform outside the cycle. Jack frowned. Or it could be something drawn to the gathering. LARPers use symbolism, costumes, sometimes even pseudo-rituals, right? Yeah. Charlie confirmed. We have fake spell books, prop magical items. It's all made up. Except sometimes it's not. Jack said grimly. Sometimes people accidentally incorporate real symbols, real words of power. It can attract attention from things better left undisturbed. Joe was already checking her weapons. How many people at this event? About 50. Charlie said, pulling herself together. They're continuing the game. Nobody's found Marcus yet except me. I covered him with my cloak and came straight here. We need to evacuate, Jack decided, without causing panic. How? Charlie asked. I can't just cancel the event. I'm not in charge. Joe thought for a moment. What if there was a health and safety concern? Gas leak or something? The site manager would have to make that call, Charlie said. And he's not answering his phone. I already tried. Then we protect them where they are, Jack said. Charlie, where's the main gathering area? The big pavilion on the north side of the park? Most participants will be there for the coronation ceremony in an hour. Jack nodded. We'll set up there. Joe, standard hunting kit. Charlie, can you draw us a map of the grounds? Mark any isolated areas where people might wander off. Charlie nodded, her tech-savvy fingers sketching quickly on hotel stationery. There's a wooded area here that's part of the game, the Enchanted Forest. And this building is where people store gear and change costumes. Perfect hunting grounds, Joe muttered. Isolated victims, plenty of cover. Jack studied the map. Charlie, I need you to get back there and try to keep people together. No wandering off alone. Say it's part of the game if you have to. What about you two? We'll be right behind you, Joe assured her. Just need to gear up. After Charlie left, Joe turned to Jack. So what are we really dealing with? You had that look. What look? The I know something but I'm being cryptic about it look. Very wizardly of you. Despite the situation, Jack smiled. The symbols Charlie described on their prop items, some sounded like genuine summoning sigils. Not for demons, but for something older. Spirit creatures that feed on imagination and creative energy. Like what, exactly? In my world, we called them bogarts, creatures that took the form of whatever you feared most. Here, they might be similar but different. Shapeshifters that feed on fear and creativity. Joe loaded silver bullets into her pistol. And you know this because... Defense against the Dark Arts, 3rd year. Jack said, then caught himself. Sorry. Old memories. Hey, Joe said softly. I'm not judging. If your weird double-life knowledge helps us save people, I'm all for it. Jack nodded gratefully. We should bring iron, silver, and salt. Cover all the bases until we know exactly what we're dealing with. As they packed, Joe asked, So in this other world, were you happy? The question caught Jack off guard. Sometimes, he said finally. I had friends. Purpose. But there was always darkness too. Always someone hunting me. Not so different from now, then. No, Jack agreed. Not so different. The LARP event was in full swing when they arrived. Participants in elaborate costumes acted out battles with foam weapons and casts spells, with painted wands and staffs. Under other circumstances, Jack might have found it amusingly familiar. Charlie met them at the entrance, back in her Queen of Moon's regalia but with fear evident behind her regal bearing. No one else has gone missing yet, she reported quietly. But people are starting to ask about Marcus. Where exactly did you find him? Joe asked. Charlie led them toward a wooded area behind the main pavilion. There. By that old oak tree. The body was still there, covered with Charlie's velvet cloak. Jack knelt beside it, lifting the fabric carefully. The victim's throat had been savagely torn, but there was something odd about the wound pattern, almost surgical in its precision despite its brutality. Not a werewolf, Joe confirmed, examining the edges of the injury. No claw marks. Jack nodded. Look at this. He pointed to a symbol drawn in blood on the man's forehead, a complex sigil that seemed to shift slightly when viewed directly. What is that? Charlie whispered. A feeding mark, Jack said grimly. Whatever killed him wasn't just hunting for sport. It was harvesting. Harvesting what? Joe demanded. Creative energy. Imagination. The very things that fueled this event. Jack stood. We need to find the source. Charlie glanced nervously toward the pavilion. How do we do that? The creature will be drawn to the strongest source of creative energy. Jack explained. Who's the most important person in your LARP storyline? The one who created it or drives the narrative? That would be Boltar the Furious, Charlie said. Real name Michael. He's the game master and main storyline writer. He's playing the wizard advisor to my queen character. Where is he now? In the pavilion, preparing for the coronation ceremony. Jack's expression darkened. Then that's where the creature will strike next. They hurried toward the main gathering, Jo with her hand on her concealed weapon, Jack reaching for his Nephilim power, ready to draw on it at a moment's notice. The pavilion was decorated like a medieval throne room, colorful banners hanging from poles, a makeshift throne on a small platform. Dozens of costume participants mingled, drinking from plastic goblets and discussing their quests in affected medieval accents. That's Boltar. Charlie pointed to a bearded man in elaborate wizard robes, gesturing dramatically as he spoke to a group of enraptured listeners. He's been running this LARP for 5 years. Jack scanned the crowd, looking for anything out of place. His senses, heightened by his dual nature, detected a subtle wrongness in the air, a shimmer like heat waves above one particular participant standing near Boltar. A woman in warrior princess attire, watching the game master with unnatural stillness. There, Jack murmured. The woman in the leather armor. She's too still. Jo followed his gaze. How do we handle this without causing panic? Charlie, go to Boltar. Tell him there's an emergency and he needs to come with you. Make it sound game-related if you have to. Charlie nodded and slipped through the crowd toward the game master. Jack and Jo circled around, approaching the two still warrior women from different angles. As Charlie reached Boltar and began speaking urgently to him, the warrior woman's head snapped toward them. For a brief instant, her features seemed to blur, revealing something ancient and hungry beneath the human disguise. Now! Jack called, abandoning subtlety. The creature hissed, its form rippling as it lunged not toward them but directly at Boltar. Charlie shoved the game master aside, taking the brunt of the attack as the creature's arm, now elongated into a razor-sharp appendage, slashed across her shoulder. Jack reacted instinctively, drawing on his Nephilim power. Golden light flared as he thrust his hand forward, sending a concussive blast of energy that knocked the creature away from Charlie. Chaos erupted in the pavilion. LARPers screamed and scattered, some believing it was part of the game, others recognizing genuine danger. Jo vaulted over a table, firing silver rounds into the creature, which shrieked as the bullets penetrated its shifting form. Everyone out! Jack shouted, his voice carrying supernatural authority. This isn't part of the game. The creature regained its footing, its form now a nightmarish blend of human and something insectal. It chittered angrily, multiple eyes blinking at Jack. Dream feeder, Jack realized aloud. It consumes creative minds. Jo emptied her clip into the creature, which staggered but didn't fall. Any tips on killing it would be helpful. Jack reached deep into his memories, not just Harry Potter's magical education but the warlock knowledge his mother had passed down. Iron disrupts its connection to our reality. Silver wounds it. But to kill it... The creature scuttled forward with impossible speed, lashing out at Jo. Jack threw himself between them, catching the brunt of a slashing limb across his chest. Pain flared, but he grabbed the limb, channeling his Nephilim grace directly into the creature. Burn! He growled, golden light flowing from his hands into the dream feeder. The creature shrieked, its form destabilizing as heavenly power seared through it. Jack increased the flow of energy, drawing on every reservoir he had, Nephilim grace, warlock magic, and the core of his former self. Incendio! He shouted, the wizard's spell merging with his other abilities. Blue-gold flames erupted around the creature, consuming it from within. It thrashed wildly, its form dissolving into oily black smoke that dissipated into nothing. Jack stumbled backward, drained from the effort. Joe caught him before he fell. Nice trick, she said, supporting his weight. The fire thing. Old spell, Jack gasped. New application. Charlie approached, clutching her wounded shoulder, her face pale but determined. Is it dead? Like really dead? Jack nodded weakly. Really dead. Good. Charlie swayed slightly. Because I think I need to sit down now. Joe helped her to a nearby chair while Jack gathered his strength to heal them both. So, Charlie said, watching as golden light flowed from Jack's hands to her wounded shoulder, knitting the flesh together. This is what you meant by complicated, huh? Jack managed a tired smile. Something like that. Afterward, they retreated to a diner off the highway, the LARP event having been officially cancelled due to unforeseen circumstances. Charlie had insisted on joining them, her curiosity only intensified by her first-hand encounter with the supernatural. So let me get this straight, she said, dunking a French fry in ketchup. You're a half-angel, half-witch hybrid with memories of being a wizard named Harry Potter in some parallel universe. Jack winced. When you say it like that, it sounds ridiculous. Dude, I just watched you shoot golden fire from your hands and heal a wound that should have needed 20 stitches. Charlie shook her head in wonder. Ridiculous left the building hours ago. Joe sipped her coffee. The question is, what now? Charlie looked between them. What do you mean? You've seen what's out there, Joe explained. You can't unknow it. So what will you do with that knowledge? Charlie considered this. Well, I was planning to spend my vacation time updating my zombie apocalypse preparedness kit, but I'm thinking monster hunting might be more immediately useful. Jack frowned. It's dangerous. Today could have ended much worse. Life's dangerous, Charlie countered. At least hunting monsters has purpose. More purpose than debugging code for a soulless corporation, anyway. Joe studied her thoughtfully. You have skills we could use. The tech knowledge alone. Are you offering me a job? Charlie grinned. More like an apprenticeship. Joe clarified. With very high mortality risks and zero benefits. Except saving people, Jack added quietly. And knowing the truth. Charlie nodded solemnly. Truth is my jam. Also adventure. And hanging out with a reincarnated wizard-angel hybrid and a badass monster hunter? She raised her milkshake in salute. Sign me up. As the women discussed training schedules and basic monster lore, Jack found himself watching them with a strange sense of déjà vu. It reminded him of planning sessions in the Gryffindor common room, of the DA meetings, of friends willing to face danger together. For the first time since his rebirth into this world, Jack felt something like hope. Not just for survival, but for connection. For meaning beyond the endless hunt. So, boss man, Charlie interrupted his thoughts. What's our next move? Jack smiled at the nickname. Iowa. Possible ghost case. And maybe after that, we find out more about where angels fit into this world's cosmology. Research mode activated. Charlie declared, already pulling out her laptop. Ghost hunting with bonus angel lore. Best vacation ever. As the three of them bent over the computer screen, discussing salt rounds and EMF readings, Jack felt the weight of his dual existence shift slightly. He wasn't fully Harry Potter anymore. He wasn't only Jack Sullivan either. He was something new, shaped by both lives, both sets of experiences. And for now, that was enough. Chapter 2, The Hunter, the Hacker, and the Hallowed Abandoned Churches always felt wrong to Jack Sullivan. Maybe it was the Nephilim in him, sensing sacred spaces fallen to disuse. Maybe it was Harry Potter's memories of Hogwarts, another sanctuary where ancient power still hummed within stone walls. Whatever the cause, the condemned Methodist church outside Cedar Rapids made his skin crawl. EMF's going crazy, Joe whispered, the handheld detector's lights flashing frantically in her grip. She moved with practiced efficiency, shotgun loaded with salt rounds balanced in her other hand. 3 weeks had passed since the Dream Feeder incident. 3 weeks of hunting together as a trio, Joe with her lifetime of hunter training, Charlie with her rapidly expanding knowledge and tech expertise, and Jack with his unique blend of powers. They'd fallen into a rhythm that felt both new and strangely familiar. "Charlie, got anything on the building's history?" Jack asked into his earpiece. Charlie's voice came through clearly from her position in the van outside. "Built in 1898, deconsecrated in 1978, abandoned since 2002. Oh, and get this, 12 suspicious deaths on the property. The last was a caretaker who supposedly hung himself in the bell tower in 2010. Supposedly? Joe prompted. Police report said suicide, but his sister claimed he was terrified of heights and would never have gone up there willingly. Jack exchanged glances with Joe. Bell tower it is. They moved through the church's main sanctuary, flashlight beams cutting through thick darkness. Pews sat at odd angles, and books scattered across rotting floorboards. A massive crucifix still dominated the wall behind the altar, Jesus' mournful eyes seeming to follow their movement. The temperature plummeted suddenly, their breath fogging before them. "Company," Joe murmured, raising her shotgun. The ghost materialized between them and the altar, the transparent figure of a middle-aged man in caretaker's clothes, a grotesque rope burned circling his neck. His expression was one of confused rage. "Get out!" The spirit's voice boomed, rattling the remaining stained glass windows. "Sir, we're here to help you," Jack said calmly, stepping forward. "You're trapped here." "Liar!" The ghost flickered, reappearing inches from Jack's face. "He said the same thing." Joe fired, the salt round dispersing the entity temporarily. "Not much for conversation, is he?" Jack frowned, considering the spirit's words. "He said someone else came here claiming to help." "Charlie, check if any hunters worked this case before," Joe said into her comm while reloading. "On it," Charlie replied. "Also, temperature just dropped 10 degrees outside the van. Is that normal?" Jack and Joe exchanged alarmed glances. "Get in the van, lock the doors," Jack ordered. "This spirit might have more range than we thought." A crash from outside confirmed his fear. Jack ran for the church entrance, Joe close behind. Through the broken doorway, they saw their van rocking violently, as if being shaken by invisible hands. "Charlie!" Joe shouted. The van door flew open, and Charlie tumbled out, laptop clutched protectively against her chest. She scrambled toward them as the vehicle's windows shattered outward. "Okay, so that ghost? Way more powerful than your average Casper," she gasped, reaching their position. The caretaker's spirit materialized in the church doorway, blocking their exit. Behind him, two more transparent figures appeared, a woman in Victorian dress and a young man in clothes from the 1950s. "He's been collecting them," Jack realized. "Using their energy to extend his reach. That's not in the ghost manual," Charlie muttered. "It's rare," Joe explained, passing Charlie a spare shotgun from her pack. "A spirit learning to bind others to itself. Usually takes decades and serious anger issues." "Great. Ghost Voldemort." Jack winced at the name, old memories flashing through his mind. "We need to find his remains. Fast." "Bell Tower, probably," Joe said. "Where he died." The trio backed away as the three spirits advanced, their forms flickering like bad television reception. "Distraction time," Jack decided. He drew on his warlock abilities, pulling chalk from his pocket and quickly sketching a containment symbol on the floor. "When I say now, both of you fire at them, drive them back across this line." Joe and Charlie positioned themselves, shotguns ready. "Now!" Twin blasts of salt rounds tore through the spirits, temporarily dispersing them. As they reformed and surged forward, Jack slammed his hand onto the chalk symbol, pushing his power into it. Green light flared as a barrier snapped into place, trapping the ghosts on the far side of the sanctuary. "That won't hold them long," he warned, already feeling the strain of maintaining the spell. "Go! Find the remains!" Joe hesitated. "We're not splitting up." "My barrier, my rules," Jack insisted. "Go. I'll be fine." The determination in his voice must have convinced her. Joe nodded sharply, tugging Charlie toward the narrow staircase leading to the bell tower. "Don't you dare die," Joe called over her shoulder. "I hate paperwork." Jack smiled despite the situation. "Wouldn't dream of it." As the women disappeared upstairs, Jack focused on maintaining the barrier against increasingly violent attacks from the spirits. The caretaker's ghost hurled itself against the magical boundary, its face contorted with rage. "You can't stop me!" it howled. "None of you can! He promised me power!" Jack frowned. "Who promised? Who were you talking to?" The ghost paused its assault, head tilting at an unnatural angle. "The man with black eyes," it said, voice suddenly calm. "He said I could have this place. Have souls. Have power. A demon made a deal with you," Jack realized. "Before you died." The ghost's laugh echoed through the sanctuary. "Not just any demon. He knew things. About you." Jack's blood ran cold. "What did he know about me? That you'd come. Angel child. Abomination." The ghost pressed closer to the barrier, its form solidifying in a way spirits shouldn't be able to manage. "He said your blood would open the door." The barrier flickered as Jack's concentration wavered. "What door?" Instead of answering, the caretaker smiled, a horrible, knowing expression, and then all three spirits shrieked in unison as flames erupted around their forms. Joe and Charlie thundered down the stairs, Joe's lighter still in her hand. "Remains found and torched," she announced. "You okay?" Jack released the barrier spell, stumbling slightly as tension drained from his body. "Yeah, but something's wrong. The ghost said a demon knew I'd come here. Called me angel child." Charlie frowned. "So what, we were set up?" "Maybe. He mentioned something about my blood opening a door." Joe's expression hardened. "We need to go. Now." They hurried outside, only to find a figure leaning casually against their damaged van. A man in a tailored black suit, his eyes flashing solid black in the moonlight. "Well, if it isn't the Nephilim," the demon said pleasantly. "Right on schedule." Joe raised her shotgun. "Back off." The demon ignored her, focused entirely on Jack. "Do you know how long we've been looking for you, abomination? A Nephilim with witch blood and an old soul." He clicked his tongue appreciatively. "You're practically a supernatural unicorn." Jack stepped forward, positioning himself between the demon and his friends. "What do you want with me?" "It's not what I want." The demon chuckled. "It's what the boss wants. You see, your particular cocktail of abilities makes you quite valuable." "Not interested," Jack said flatly. "Oh, I don't need your interest." The demon straightened, brushing invisible lint from his immaculate suit. "Just your blood. About a pint should do." Before anyone could react, the demon flicked his wrist. An invisible force slammed into Joe and Charlie, throwing them backward into the church wall. Jack felt similar power grip him, but his Nephilim grace instinctively resisted, creating a standoff of supernatural forces. "Impressive," the demon admitted. "But I came prepared." He revealed a blade from inside his jacket, ancient-looking, with sigils etched along the metal that made Jack's vision blur when he tried to focus on them. "Angel blade," the demon explained. "Modified for Nephilim extraction. This might sting a bit." Jack reached for his powers, golden light beginning to shimmer beneath his skin. The demon lunged with supernatural speed, the blade slicing across Jack's forearm before he could fully defend himself. Blood welled from the wound, blood that glowed faintly with internal light. "Perfect," the demon purred, producing a small vial to collect the flowing blood. "Get away from him!" Charlie's voice rang out, strong and clear. She stood shakily, clutching an old leather-bound book. Jack recognized it instantly, his mother's grimoire, which Charlie had been studying relentlessly. "Exorcismus T. Omnis Immundus Spiritus." Charlie began reading, her pronunciation surprisingly accurate. The demon flinched but laughed. "Amateur hour. I'm afraid I don't have time for Omnis Satanica Potestas." Joe joined in, pushing herself upright to stand beside Charlie. Omnis incursio infernalis adversarii. Jack added his voice, drawing on memories of exorcisms from both his lives. The demon's smile faltered as the three voices united, power building in the ancient words. His body began to twitch, black smoke leaking from the corners of his mouth. "This isn't over," he hissed between clenched teeth. "He already has enough of your blood. The door will." With a final scream, the demon erupted from its host's mouth in a torrent of black smoke, spiraling downward as the exorcism completed. The human vessel collapsed, empty-eyed. Jack rushed to check on the man while Joe and Charlie leaned against each other, both breathing heavily from the effort of fighting off the demon's telekinetic attack. "He's gone," Jack said quietly, closing the man's vacant eyes. "Probably died when the demon first possessed him." "What was that about a door?" Charlie asked, her voice shaking slightly. "And why did he want your blood?" Jack examined the cut on his arm, which was already healing thanks to his Nephilim nature. "I don't know. But we need to find out." Joe nodded grimly. "We need to call my mom. If demons are hunting specifically for you, we need backup." Ellen Harvelle had seen many strange things in her years running the Roadhouse, but even she looked taken aback as they explained the night's events over secure phone lines. A demon specifically hunting a Nephilim's blood to open a door? Her voice crackled through the speaker. That's apocalypse-level ominous. They had retreated to a motel 30 miles from the church, salt lines at every entrance and Jack's warlock wards reinforcing them. Charlie worked furiously on her laptop, searching hunter databases and occult sites for any references to doors opened by Nephilim blood. "Have you heard anything on hunter channels?" Joe asked her mother. "Any rumors about demons with bigger plans?" "Nothing specific," Ellen replied. But Rufus mentioned increased demon activity around old churches in the Midwest. Thought it was coincidence until now. Jack paced the small room, mind racing. "The ghost said the demon knew I'd come. That means they've been tracking me, maybe for months. Or setting bait," Charlie suggested without looking up from her screen. Those ghost deaths weren't random. 12 victims over time, creating a case that would attract hunters. Joe frowned. But how would they know Jack specifically would respond? There are hunters all over the country. Because I'm not careful enough. Jack realized. I've been using my powers openly on hunts. Word spreads in supernatural circles. Ellen's sigh was audible over the speaker. Well, cat's out of that bag. Question is, what now? Charlie raised her hand like an eager student. I might have something. There are references in ancient Enochian texts to doors between realms that require the blood of a halfling of heaven to open. Enochian, Jack repeated. The language of angels. You think angels are involved in this too? Joe asked. Jack ran a hand through his perpetually messy hair. It would make sense. Nephilim are forbidden because of our power. If demons want to use that power for something, angels might get involved to stop it. Or to control it themselves. Ellen added darkly. Don't assume angels are the good guys in this. From the stories I've heard, they're just as likely to smite first and ask questions never. Jack couldn't argue with that assessment. His own angelic father had abandoned his mother once she became pregnant. Whether from fear of heavenly retribution or simple indifference, he'd never know. So we've got demons hunting you for some door-opening ritual, possibly angels about to rain down heavenly wrath, and we're working with half a lead. Joe summarized. Awesome. Actually, Charlie interrupted, turning her laptop around. Make that 3/4 of a lead. I cross-referenced the sigils from that demon's blade with symbols in your mom's grimoire, Jack. They match a set associated with a place called the Axis Mundi. The path to heaven. Jack translated automatically. Charlie nodded. According to this, it's an interdimensional highway between realms. Heaven, hell, purgatory, and... She squinted at the text. Something called the empty. Ellen made a small noise of recognition. I've heard rumors about the empty. It's supposedly where angels and demons go when they die. Their final resting place. And someone wants to open a door to it. Joe concluded. Why? Jack's expression darkened. Power. Whatever exists in the empty has been accumulating for millennia. If someone could harness that. End of the world party. Charlie finished grimly. All right, here's what we do. Ellen took charge with the authority of a veteran hunter. You three lie low for a few days. I'll activate some contacts, see what else we can learn about this ritual. Charlie, send me everything you've found. Jack, no. Jack interrupted firmly. I'm not hiding while people are in danger because of me. That's not what I was going to say, Ellen corrected. I was going to suggest you brush up on any angel-related abilities you might have. If Heaven's about to take an interest in you, being able to defend yourself would be helpful. Jack blinked in surprise. Oh. And all of you, watch each other's backs, Ellen continued. If demons want Jack's blood, they'll target the people close to him to get leverage. Joe and Charlie exchanged glances. Don't worry, Mom, Joe said. We've got this. After ending the call, an uncomfortable silence filled the motel room. Jack resumed pacing, golden energy occasionally crackling between his fingers as his agitation grew. Stop that, Joe finally said. You're going to wear a hole in the carpet, and I doubt our security deposit covers supernatural damage. Jack halted, embarrassed to find his feet hovering slightly above the floor, his Nephilim abilities responding to his emotional state. Sorry, he murmured, consciously grounding himself. I just hate feeling hunted. Welcome to my entire childhood, Joe replied, but her tone was sympathetic rather than bitter. Charlie closed her laptop and stretched. So, Angel Boot Camp? What exactly does that entail? Cloud surfing? Harp lessons? Dramatic entrances with backlighting? Despite everything, Jack smiled. Charlie's humor reminded him painfully of Fred and George Weasley, using laughter as both shield and sword against darkness. I've never fully explored my angelic abilities, Jack admitted. My mother taught me to suppress them, afraid they would draw attention. Well, that ship has sailed, Joe pointed out. Might as well go all in now. Jack nodded slowly. There's a place we could go. Somewhere remote enough for practice, but with natural protection my mother once told me about. Road trip? Charlie asked hopefully. Montana, Jack confirmed. The cabin where I grew up. Or what's left of it. The Montana wilderness hadn't changed much in the years since Jack had fled his burning childhood home. Tall pines still reached for endless sky, mountains still cut jagged silhouettes against the horizon, and the isolation still felt both comforting and oppressive. They'd driven for 2 days, switching vehicles twice to cover their trail. Charlie had worked minor technological miracles, creating digital ghosts to distract anyone tracking their phones or credit cards. Joe had contacted trusted hunters to keep watch for demon activity. And Jack had grown increasingly quiet as they approached his past. The cabin itself was gone, reduced to a charred foundation and scattered debris reclaimed by forest undergrowth. But the clearing remained, ringed by trees his mother had marked with protection symbols that still pulsed faintly with residual power. Home sweet home, Jack said quietly as they parked the borrowed jeep at the edge of the clearing. Joe squeezed his shoulder silently. In the months they'd hunted together, she developed an uncanny ability to sense when words would help and when presence was enough. Charlie emerged from the back seat, stretching dramatically. So this is where baby Nephilim Warlock wizard grew up. Very Evil Dead, but in a cozy way. Jack smiled despite himself. My mother chose it for the natural energy convergence. There's a place where ley lines cross underneath this clearing. It amplifies magical workings and masks supernatural signatures. Convenient for angel practice, Joe observed, unloading supplies from the jeep. They set up camp efficiently, a hunter's camp with protective symbols, weaponry within easy reach, and enough supplies to last a week. By nightfall, they sat around a small fire, the stars impossibly bright overhead in the absence of light pollution. So, Charlie broke the comfortable silence. Angel Powers 101. What exactly can you do besides the glowy hand thing and floating? Jack considered the question. Telekinesis, Limited healing. Some precognition in dreams. Flight, theoretically, though I've never tried properly. And smiting, channeling destructive energy into other beings. Pretty badass package, Joe commented, poking the fire with a stick. Why haven't you used more of it during hunts? Control, Jack explained. The more power I access, the more visible I'd become to other supernatural entities. Like turning on a lighthouse in the dark. Charlie nodded thoughtfully. So it's risk versus reward. More power equals more danger. Exactly. Well, we're already on demon radar, Joe reasoned. Might as well get the full benefit of your abilities. Jack couldn't argue with that logic. We'll start tomorrow. For tonight, I should reinforce the protective boundary. He stood, moving toward the tree line. Need help? Joe offered. Jack smiled. Actually, yes. The protection works better with blood from multiple sources. Freely given. He added quickly, seeing Charlie's alarmed expression. Blood magic. Cool. Totally normal camping activity. Charlie muttered, but followed them to the edge of the clearing. Jack showed them how to refresh the symbols his mother had carved into the ancient pines, each mark requiring just a drop of blood and a whispered invocation. As they worked their way around the perimeter, Jack felt the boundaries strengthening, a dome of protective energy forming above the clearing. It feels different when you do it, Joe observed after completing her section. The marks glow brighter. Nephilim blood, Jack explained. More potent. Which is why demons want it for their door-opening ritual. Charlie concluded. Supernatural Red Bull. They completed the circuit, the boundary now pulsing with renewed strength. As they returned to the campfire, Jack felt a tension he hadn't realized he was carrying ease slightly. For the first time since the church, he felt relatively safe. Tell us about your mom, Charlie said suddenly as they settled back around the fire. What was she like? Jack blinked in surprise. Personal questions weren't common currency in hunter circles, where the past was often too painful to discuss. She was fierce, he said finally. Protective. Smart. She taught me everything she knew about magic, about hiding, about surviving. And she loved stories, used to tell me tales about angels and heroes long before I knew they were really about my father. She sounds amazing, Charlie said softly. She was. Joe leaned forward, firelight dancing across her features. And in your other life? What were your parents like then? It still startled Jack when Joe referenced his past as Harry Potter. She never questioned the truth of it anymore, simply accepted it as part of who he was. I never really knew them, he admitted. They died protecting me when I was a baby. I grew up with my mother's sister and her husband. They weren't kind. That sucks, Charlie said with simple honesty. Families should be better than that. Jack nodded, unexpectedly moved by her straightforward sympathy. I found other family later. Friends who became as close as siblings. You miss them, Joe observed, not a question. Every day, Jack confessed. Ron, Hermione, the Weasleys, Neville, Luna, they were my world. Knowing I'll never see them again. He trailed off, the weight of that loss suddenly fresh. Charlie reached over, covering his hand with her own. But you found us, she said firmly. And we're pretty awesome too. Joe snorted but didn't contradict her. Instead, she added more wood to the fire, her movements deliberately casual. Family doesn't end with blood, she said quietly. My mom taught me that. Something warm unfurled in Jack's chest that had nothing to do with Nephilim grace or magic. He looked between these two women, one raised in the hunting life, one thrust into it by chance, both now essential parts of his existence. Thank you, he said simply. For being here. For not running when you learned what I am. Please, Charlie scoffed. Running from adventure is against my personal code. Also, I've seen what's out there now. No way am I facing it without a superpowered friend and a badass hunter at my side. Joe rolled her eyes, but a smile tugged at her lips. What she said? Minus the superpowered friend part. You're just annoying and useful. Jack laughed, recognizing the affection buried in Joe's gruff words. This wasn't the golden trio of his past life, but it was something equally precious, a new beginning, a second chance at belonging. The moment was interrupted by a sound like thunder without clouds, a deep, resonant boom that shook the very air around them. The protective dome above the clearing rippled visibly, holding against whatever had struck it. All three were on their feet instantly, weapons in hand. "What the hell was that?" Joe demanded. Jack's expression was grim as he stared upward. Golden light flickered in his eyes as he extended his senses beyond the boundary. "Angels," he said softly. "They've found us." Dawn broke with tense silence. The angelic presence remained just outside their protective boundary, watching, waiting, but not yet attacking. Jack had stayed awake all night, monitoring the situation, while Joe and Charlie took turns keeping watch. "They could have broken through if they really wanted to," Jack explained as they shared a cold breakfast, unwilling to risk a fire that might weaken their wards. "This barrier isn't designed to keep out angels specifically. So they're being polite? Angelic door knocking?" Charlie asked skeptically. "Strategic," Joe corrected. "They're assessing the situation. Planning." Jack nodded. "Angels are soldiers first and foremost. They don't attack without orders and strategy." "Great," Charlie muttered. "Heavenly SWAT team." Jack stood, decision made. "I need to talk to them." "Bad idea," Joe said immediately. "Terrible idea," Charlie agreed. "Do you have a better one?" Jack challenged. "They know I'm here. They aren't leaving. And we can't stay in this clearing forever." Joe's expression hardened. "We could fight." "Against angels?" "With what?" Jack shook his head. "Even with my abilities, we're outmatched. And I'm not risking your lives." "So you'll risk yours instead?" "Classic," Charlie huffed. "Very self-sacrificial hero complex. I bet you did this in your wizard life too." Jack winced at her accuracy. "I'll speak to them from within the boundary. If negotiations fail, we still have protection." Neither woman looked convinced, but they didn't stop him as he approached the edge of the clearing. Jack closed his eyes, focusing on his Nephilim grace, letting it rise to the surface. When he spoke, his voice carried an otherworldly resonance. "I know you're there," he called. "I am willing to talk." Silence answered him for several long moments. Then the air rippled, and a figure appeared just beyond the tree line, a man in a pristine black suit, his posture unnaturally rigid. "Nephilim," the angel acknowledged, voice emotionless. "You are an abomination." "I've heard," Jack replied dryly. "Do you have a name?" The angel's expression didn't change. "I am Bartholomew, angel of the Lord, lieutenant in the heavenly host." "Well, Bartholomew, what exactly does heaven want with me?" The angel studied him with clinical detachment. "You represent a violation of sacred law. Nephilim are forbidden." "I didn't exactly choose to be born," Jack pointed out. "And I've harmed no one who wasn't already harming others." "Your existence is itself harm," Bartholomew stated flatly. "And now demons seek your blood for profane purposes. The risk is unacceptable." Jack felt Joe and Charlie move to stand beside him, a united front against heavenly judgment. He appreciated the gesture, even while knowing how futile it would be against angelic power. "I'm aware of the demon plot," Jack said carefully. "They want my blood to open a door to the empty." Something flickered across Bartholomew's impassive face, surprise perhaps. "You know of this?" "We're working to stop it," Charlie interjected. "So maybe we're on the same side?" The angel's gaze shifted to her, then to Joe, his expression darkening. "Humans. You align yourself with this creature?" "This creature has a name," Joe said sharply. "And he's saved more lives than you have, I'd bet." Bartholomew's eyes flared with blue-white light. "You understand nothing of what is at stake." "Then explain it," Jack challenged. "If you want my cooperation, tell me what's really happening." The angel was silent for a long moment, internal calculations almost visible behind his cold eyes. The ritual the demons seek to complete would not merely open a door to the empty, he finally said. It would awaken what sleeps there. And what exactly is that? Charlie asked. The empty contains every angel and demon that has ever died, Bartholomew explained. Billions of celestial energies in eternal sleep. If awakened and harnessed by demonkind. Apocalypse, Jack finished grimly. They'd have the power of fallen angels at their disposal. Correct. Bartholomew's gaze returned to Jack. Your blood is the final component. The demons already possess the other ritual elements. They only need you. Joe stepped forward. So we keep Jack safe. Problem solved. Insufficient. The angel dismissed. The Nephilim's existence creates ongoing risk. Heaven's position is clear. He must be eliminated. Golden light flared around Jack's clenched fists. I'm afraid that's not an option I'm willing to accept. Bartholomew's expression didn't change, but the air around him began to charge with power. It is not a negotiation. Wait. Charlie interrupted, stepping between them despite Joe's attempt to pull her back. What if we could neutralize the ritual? Make Jack's blood useless for their purposes? The angel paused, head tilting slightly. Explain. Charlie glanced at Jack apologetically. I've been studying the grimoire. There are purification rituals that can temporarily alter the metaphysical properties of blood. If we performed one on Jack, his blood wouldn't work for the demon ritual. Jack stared at her in surprise. Charlie had indeed been studying his mother's grimoire relentlessly, but he hadn't realized how much she'd absorbed. Bartholomew considered this. Such methods are unreliable and temporary. But possible. Charlie pressed. It would require ingredients difficult to obtain. Name them. Joe challenged. We're hunters. Finding rare items is literally our job description. The standoff stretched, tension crackling in the air between Angel and Nephilim. Finally, Bartholomew nodded fractionally. I will consult with my superiors. He conceded. If this alternative is deemed acceptable, I will return with the requirements for the ritual. And you'll call off the Angel hit squad in the meantime? Joe demanded. You will remain under observation, Bartholomew stated. But no action will be taken while discussions proceed. Without waiting for a response, the angel vanished with a sound like rushing wings. Charlie released a breath she'd been holding. Well, that was terrifying. Do angels ever blink? Pretty sure he didn't blink once. Joe rounded on her. That purification ritual, is it real, or did you just bluff an angel of the Lord? Charlie grinned sheepishly. Bit of both. There is a ritual in the grimoire for purifying blood of curses. I figured we might be able to modify it. Jack shook his head in amazement. That was either brilliantly inspired or suicidally reckless. My specialty is the intersection of those two things. Charlie quipped, though tension still lined her face. So what now? We just wait for heaven's counteroffer? We prepare. Joe decided. If angels are willing to negotiate, demons won't be. They'll come for Jack directly. Jack nodded, resolve hardening. Which means it's time I stopped holding back. Angel boot camp starts now. The next 3 days transformed the clearing into something between a hunter's training ground and a supernatural gymnasium. Jack worked systematically through his abilities, pushing boundaries he'd previously feared to test. Telekinesis came naturally to him, perhaps because it had parallels to the wandless magic Harry Potter had occasionally managed. He practiced lifting increasingly heavy objects, culminating in raising their jeeps 6 feet off the ground while simultaneously organizing their weapons cache into a perfect circle. Show off, Joe accused, but her impressed expression belied her words. Healing proved more challenging to develop. Jack could mend wounds, both his own and others, but the process strained him significantly. Charlie volunteered small injuries for practice, allowing Jack to heal paper cuts and minor burns until he could do so with minimal energy expenditure. It tickles, she reported as golden light sealed a small knife nick on her finger. Like carbonated soda under the skin, Flight remained theoretical, as Jack's attempts resulted in more hovering than actual directed movement. After his fifth crash landing, Joe banned further attempts within 50 feet of their camp equipment. "At this rate, we'll need the first aid kit for you," she grumbled, helping him up after a particularly undignified tumble. But it was the offensive capabilities that showed the most dramatic improvement. Jack's ability to channel destructive energy, what angels called smiting, evolved from unfocused bursts to precision strikes. By the third day, he could reduce a dead pine to ash while leaving surrounding vegetation untouched. Throughout it all, Charlie documented everything in a notebook she titled, "The Nephilim Chronicles," definitely not compensating for anything. "For scientific purposes," she explained when Joe raised an eyebrow at the extensive notes. "And possibly future best-selling memoir rights." Between training sessions, they researched blood purification rituals, combining Charlie's tech savvy with Jack's magical knowledge and Joe's practical hunter experience. They developed a working theory for a ritual that might actually accomplish what Charlie had promised the angel. On the evening of the third day, as they reviewed their progress around the campfire, Joe asked the question they'd all been avoiding. "What if this works? If we render your blood useless for the ritual and stop the demons, what then? Will the angels leave you alone?" Jack prodded the fire with a stick, watching sparks spiral upward. "Probably not permanently. I'm still a Nephilim, still forbidden by their laws." "That's bullshit," Charlie declared. "You can't help how you were born. Angels aren't big on moral nuance," Jack said with a sad smile. "They follow orders. See the world in absolutes." "Then we keep running," Joe said firmly. "Keep fighting. Find a more permanent solution." Jack looked between them, these two humans who had accepted him completely, who stood against heaven and hell for his sake. Something swelled in his chest, an emotion too complex to name. "You should know," he said carefully. "Being associated with me puts targets on your backs too. Not just from demons, but from angels. From everything supernatural that sees me as a threat or a prize." Joe snorted. "Bit late for the warning label." "What she said?" Charlie agreed. "Besides, I was boring before. Now I'm besties with a Nephilim and a hunter. Major life upgrade." "It's not a game, Charlie," Jack insisted. "People die in this life. People I care about have always." He broke off, memories of those lost in his previous life threatening to overwhelm him. Joe moved closer, her shoulder pressing against his in silent support. "We know the risks," she said quietly. "We choose this anyway. We choose you." Something in her tone made Jack look up sharply. The firelight cast shadows across Joe's face, but her expression was clear, determined, fierce, and something else. Something that made his heart beat faster. Charlie cleared her throat pointedly. "And on that note, I'm going to check the perimeter. For completely unrelated reasons. That have nothing to do with the tension that could be cut with a knife right now." She grabbed a flashlight and beat a hasty retreat. Alone by the fire, Jack and Joe sat in charged silence. "She's not subtle," Joe finally said, a smile tugging at her lips. "No," Jack agreed. "Not her strong suit." Another silence, more comfortable but still weighted with unspoken things. "Did you ever?" Joe began, then stopped, seeming to search for words. "In your other life. Was there someone?" The question caught Jack off guard. "Yes," he admitted. "A few someones, actually. But Ginny was the last. Ron's sister." He smiled at the memory. "Fierce. Independent. Wouldn't take any of my self-sacrificing nonsense." "Sounds familiar," Joe murmured. "She reminds me of you sometimes," Jack said before he could think better of it. Joe's eyebrows shot up. "Is that weird?" "That seems weird." Jack laughed. "Maybe a little. But you're not her. You're Joe. Completely yourself." "Good answer." Their eyes met across the small space between them. Jack was suddenly acutely aware of every detail. The golden highlights firelight brought out in Joe's hair, The small scar above her right eyebrow from a hunt gone wrong, the steady strength in her hands that could both kill monsters and bandage wounds with equal skill. Joe broke the moment first, looking back to the fire. And Charlie? Where does she fit? The question seemed loaded with meaning beyond its simple words. Jack considered carefully. Charlie reminds me of friends from before, he said slowly. But she's also entirely new. Brilliant in ways I never expected. Brave despite her fear. She's special. Joe agreed, something careful in her tone. So are you, Jack said simply. Joe's eyes returned to his, searching. Whatever she found made her nod slightly, a decision reached. Hunters don't usually get happy endings, she said quietly. We die bloody, most of us. My dad did. I know. But until then, Joe continued, her voice steadying, we get to choose how we live. Who we live with. Jack held very still, feeling like they were standing on the edge of something important. Joe. The moment shattered as Charlie burst back into the clearing, face pale in the moonlight. Company, she hissed. Multiple signatures approaching the boundary. They were on their feet instantly, weapons in hand, personal revelations shelved for survival. Angels or demons? Jack demanded, already reaching out with his senses. Neither, Charlie said grimly. Humans. Hunters. At least 6 of them. Joe swore quietly. How did they find us? Questions later. Jack decided, golden light already gathering around his hands. Positions now. They'd prepared for various attack scenarios during their training, establishing defensive formations around the clearing. Joe took the highest ground, rifle with scope assembled with practiced efficiency. Charlie positioned herself near their equipment, salt gun in hand and digital traps ready to deploy. Jack stood center, the most visible target but also their most powerful weapon. The first hunter broke through the tree line cautiously, shotgun leading the way. Others followed, spreading out in a classic encirclement pattern. That's far enough, Jack called, letting enough Nephilim power show in his voice to carry supernatural authority. The hunters halted but didn't lower their weapons. Jack Sullivan? The lead hunter called back. We need to talk. Jack frowned. The voice was familiar, though he couldn't immediately place it. Show yourself properly. The hunter stepped further into the clearing's ambient light, revealing a weathered face Jack recognized from the Roadhouse. Rufus? Joe called in surprise. What the hell? Rufus Turner, veteran hunter, friend of Ellen Harvelle, and notoriously cantankerous loner, nodded grimly. Ellen sent us. You 3 haven't been answering your phones. Charlie patted her pockets. We've been in airplane mode to avoid tracking. What's happened? Demons hit the Roadhouse. Rufus said bluntly. Looking for information on your whereabouts. Ice formed in Jack's stomach. Ellen? Ash? Alive. Rufus confirmed. But the place is trashed, and they grabbed a hunter who knew about your Montana connection. We figured we'd better find you before the demons did. Joe lowered her rifle slightly. Why the full assault team approach? Rufus gestured to the hunters flanking him. Because we're not the only ones looking. There's a demon squad about 10 miles south, moving this way. And something else tracking from the east, something that's burning out electronics and killing wildlife in its path. Angels, Jack realized. Bartholomew must not have liked Heaven's answer to our proposal. We need to move. One of the other hunters urged. Whatever protection you've got here won't hold against a combined angel-demon assault. Jack exchanged glances with Joe and Charlie. Their sanctuary was compromised, and they were running out of options. Where? He asked simply. Ellen set up a fallback location, Rufus explained. Warded against everything she could think of, including angels if her research is correct. Joe nodded decisively. We'll go. Give us 5 minutes to pack essentials. As the trio quickly gathered their most important supplies, Jack felt a strange sensation prickling at the base of his skull, a warning his Nephilim senses were trying to communicate. Something's not right, he murmured to Joe as they stuffed weapons into duffel bags. Rufus is solid, Joe replied, though her expression remained cautious. My mom trusts him. It's not him specifically, Jack clarified. It's... He trailed off, trying to articulate the feeling. It's too convenient. The timing. Charlie joined them, grimoire and laptop safely stowed in her backpack. Ready when you are. Though I share Jack's paranoia. This has trap written all over it. We don't have a choice, Joe pointed out pragmatically. If angels and demons are converging, we can't stay here. Jack made a decision. We go with them, but we stay alert. And we take separate vehicles. Charlie rides with Rufus, you and I follow in the Jeep. Why split up? Joe asked. Insurance, Jack said grimly. If something goes wrong, we need someone free to act. Charlie nodded understanding. I'll be your inside man. Woman. Person. Spy-adjacent individual. With the plan set, they joined the hunters at the clearing's edge. Rufus eyed their arrangements suspiciously but didn't argue. Stay close, he instructed as they disabled the boundary just enough to allow passage. These woods aren't safe anymore. They moved through the darkness in tense silence, Jack monitoring their surroundings with every sense he possessed. The prickling warning continued, growing stronger as they approached the vehicles parked on the old logging road. As Charlie moved to enter Rufus's truck, Jack caught her arm, passing her something discreetly, a small charm his mother had made, designed to break magical compulsions. Just in case, he whispered. Charlie nodded almost imperceptibly, slipping the charm into her pocket before climbing into the truck's cab. The caravan started moving, headlights cutting through the Montana night. Jack drove the Jeep with Joe beside him, weapons ready in her lap. Talk to me, she said after several minutes of silence. What are you sensing? Jack gripped the steering wheel tightly, trying to sort through the jumble of impressions. It's like interference. Something blurring my perception. Angelic? Demonic? Neither. Something else. He frowned, a memory surfacing from his past life, the sensation of Imperius' curse, the magical compulsion that bent victims to the caster's will. Mind control. Joe's expression hardened. You think they're being controlled? Rufus and the others? Not fully. Jack clarified. More like, influenced. Steered. Toward what? I don't know, Jack admitted. But we need to be ready for anything. They drove for nearly an hour, deeper into the wilderness, the road growing progressively worse. Suddenly, Rufus's truck ahead of them stopped, the other vehicles following suit. Why are we stopping? Joe muttered, hand tightening on her shotgun. Jack scanned their surroundings. They'd entered a wide clearing surrounded by steep rock faces, a natural amphitheater with limited escape routes. Every instinct screamed danger. It's a trap, he confirmed, killing the Jeep's engine. But sprung by whom? They exited the vehicle cautiously. The other hunters were already spreading out around the clearing, their movements oddly synchronized. Charlie stood near Rufus's truck, her posture rigid but her eyes alert, one hand in the pocket where she'd placed the charm. Rufus, Joe called. What's going on? The veteran hunter turned, his expression blank in the headlight's glare. It's time, Jack Sullivan. Time to fulfill your purpose. And what purpose is that? Jack asked, already drawing on his Nephilim power, golden light illuminating his eyes. The door must be opened, Rufus intoned, his voice strangely flat. The sleeping must awaken. As if on cue, the hunters all drew knives, not for attack, but for ritual. Each sliced their own palm in perfect unison, blood welling dark in the moonlight. Blood of the willing to bind, they chanted as one. Blood of the Nephilim to open. Jack pushed Joe behind him protectively. Run, he whispered. Get Charlie and run. Before she could respond, a figure materialized in the center of the clearing, the same demon from the church, still wearing his immaculate suit, now sporting a satisfied smile. Finally, he purred. The guest of honor arrives. Let them go, Jack demanded, gesturing to the enthralled hunters. Your quarrel is with me. The demon laughed. Oh, it's not a quarrel, Nephilim. It's destiny. Do you have any idea how long we've waited for one like you? A Nephilim with witch blood and an old soul. The perfect key. Jack. Charlie's voice cut through the tension. She'd managed to work her way closer to them, her eyes clear despite the influence affecting the others. The charm was working. Whatever ritual they're planning, it's already started. The blood they're spilling is creating a pattern. Jack looked down, noticing for the first time the subtle grooves cut into the clearing's floor, ancient sigils arranged in a massive circle, now beginning to fill with the hunter's flowing blood. Observant little human, the demon remarked. Yes, the ritual is underway. All we need now is the final ingredient. His gaze fixed on Jack. Your blood, freely given or forcefully taken. Not happening, Joe snarled, raising her shotgun. The demon flicked his wrist casually, sending the weapon flying from her hands. Brave but futile. You can't stop what's been in motion for centuries. Jack assessed their options rapidly. The controlled hunters were closing in, forming a circle around them. The demon stood confidently at the center of the ritual site. And somewhere beyond the clearing, he could sense angelic presence approaching, too late to help, but soon enough to complicate matters further. Charlie! Jack called, a plan forming. The counterspell! The one we were developing! Charlie's eyes widened with understanding. She reached into her backpack, pulling out the grimoire. It's not complete! We don't have all the components! Improvise! Jack shouted, then turned to the demon. You want my blood? Come and get it yourself. The demon smiled, revealing teeth too sharp to be human. With pleasure. As the demon advanced, Jack channeled Nephilim power through his entire body, golden light blazing from his skin like a small sun. The controlled hunters faltered, shielding their eyes from the radiance. Joe, Jack said without looking back. Whatever happens, stay with Charlie. Make sure she finishes the spell. Jack. Joe began, but he was already moving. Jack launched himself at the demon with supernatural speed, colliding with enough force to create a shockwave that rippled through the clearing. They grappled in a blur of movement, the demon's strength matching Jack's enhanced abilities. You can't win. The demon hissed, black eyes gleaming. The ritual is already calling to the empty. Can't you feel it? And Jack could, a wrongness in the air, like reality stretching thin. The blood-filled sigils pulsed with unnatural light, creating a vortex of energy that spiraled upward. Across the clearing, Charlie had begun chanting, the grimoire opened before her, as Joe guarded her back against the approaching hunters. The counterspell wasn't complete, wasn't tested, but it was their only hope. The demon slammed Jack to the ground, pinning him with inhuman strength. I only need a little, he crooned, producing the same sigil-marked blade from their previous encounter. Just a few drops to complete the connection. Jack struggled, but the demon had positioned himself cleverly, using the ritual's growing power to supplement his own strength. Why? Jack demanded, buying time. Why open the empty? What could possibly be worth this risk? The demon leaned closer, blade hovering over Jack's throat. Power beyond imagining. The first demons, the fallen angels who taught us everything, all sleeping, waiting. With them awakened and bound to our cause, hell will finally triumph. Heaven will fall. And you, Nephilim, get to be the key that unlocks it all. The blade descended toward Jack's throat, but before it could touch his skin, a shot rang out. The demon jerked as a bullet struck his shoulder, not enough to kill him, but enough to break his concentration. Joe stood 20 feet away, Rufus's dropped pistol in her hands, expression cold with determination. Get away from him. The demon snarled, turning toward this new threat. The moment of distraction was all Jack needed. He channeled every ounce of power he could muster, Nephilim grace, warlock magic, and the core of what had once been Harry Potter's magical ability. Expelliarmus. The spell erupted from him not as the controlled jet of red light from his wizarding days, but as an explosion of golden energy that sent the demon flying backward, the ritual blade spinning from his grasp. Jack scrambled to his feet, catching the blade mid-air. Across the clearing, Charlie's chanting reached a crescendo, her voice carrying power beyond her human limitations. Sanguinum purificare! She shouted. Portam claudera! A wave of energy rippled outward from her position, washing over the clearing. The enthralled hunters stumbled, confusion replacing the blank expressions as the compulsion broke. The demon regained his footing, rage contorting his features. No! You can't stop this! The door is already opening! He was right. Above them, the air had begun to split, darkness seeping through a growing tear in reality. The empty reaching into their world. Jack made his decision in an instant. Charlie! Joe! Get everyone out of here! What are you doing? Joe shouted, already moving toward him. Jack raised the ritual blade. Ending this. Before anyone could stop him, he sliced his own palm, Nephilim blood welling golden bright. But instead of allowing it to flow into the ritual sigils, he pressed his bleeding hand to his chest, directly over his heart. My blood, he declared, voice resonating with power. My choice. He began to chant, not Charlie's counterspell, but something older, something his mother had taught him for emergencies. A spell of redirection. The demon screamed in fury, lunging toward him, but too late. Jack's blood ignited with supernatural fire, golden flames racing along the ritual lines, consuming the hunter's blood and replacing it with burning light. The tier above them pulsed, energy flowing not from our world into the empty, but reversed, the ritual's power turning back upon itself. What have you done? The demon shrieked as the golden fire reached him, engulfing his form. Change the equation, Jack answered grimly. The demon's vessel contorted as the reversed energy tore through it, black smoke erupting from its mouth only to be consumed by golden flame. The tear in reality contracted, the darkness receding as the pathway collapsed. With a final, thunderous implosion, the ritual failed completely. The demon disintegrated, the controlled hunters collapsed unconscious but alive, and the clearing fell silent but for the ringing aftermath of immense power. Jack swayed, dangerously depleted. Joe reached him first, catching him as his knees buckled. Idiot! She muttered, though her voice shook with relief. Self-sacrificing idiot! Learn from the best, Jack managed weakly. Charlie joined them, grimoire clutched to her chest, eyes wide with awe and concern. That was the most badass thing I've ever seen. Also, are you dying? Please don't be dying. Jack attempted a reassuring smile. Not dying. Just very, very tired. The ritual? Joe asked. Reversed and neutralized, Jack confirmed. The doors closed. For now. They helped him to the jeep, laying him across the back seat. Around them, the other hunters were beginning to stir, free of the demonic influence, and confused about their surroundings. We should go, Charlie urged. Before they start asking questions we can't answer. Joe nodded, sliding into the driver's seat. What about the angels? I thought you said they were approaching? Jack closed his eyes, extending his senses despite his exhaustion. Gone. They felt the ritual collapse. They'll regroup, reassess. So we bought time, Joe concluded, starting the engine. Time, Jack agreed sleepily. And maybe something more. As the jeep bounced down the rough road, Jack drifted toward unconsciousness. His last awareness was of Charlie climbing into the back seat, lifting his head gently to rest on her lap, while Joe drove with fierce concentration, glancing back at them in the rearview mirror. Family, he thought hazily. Not by blood, but by choice. His last coherent thought before darkness claimed him was how strange and wonderful it felt to have found that twice in one's soul's existence. Jack woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar curtains and the smell of coffee. He blinked, taking in his surroundings, a small bedroom with wooden walls, hunting trophies mounted alongside protective sigils. He lives, Charlie announced from the doorway, coffee mug in hand. Just in time for breakfast. Or dinner, technically, since you've been out for about 20 hours. Jack pushed himself upright, wincing as his body protested. Where are we? Safe house, Joe answered, appearing behind Charlie. One of my mom's. Off the grid, heavily warded. About 60 miles from where you decided to improvise explosive ritual magic. Despite their casual tones, Jack could see the worry behind their eyes. I'm okay, he assured them. Just drained. Charlie handed him the coffee. Drink. Caffeine isn't angel juice, but it'll help. Jack accepted gratefully, the warm mug steadying his still shaking hands. The hunters? Rufus? Confused but alive. Joe reported. Mom's handling the fallout. As far as they know, they were tracking demon activity and got ambushed. Partial truth is easier to maintain. Jack nodded, relieved. And the ritual site? Obliterated, Charlie said with a hint of awe. Whatever you did created a perfect circle of scorched earth. Very crop circle, very dramatic. Jack sipped his coffee, memories of the confrontation clarifying. The reversal spell consumed the ritual's power and turned it back on itself. Closed the pathway to the empty. And the demon? Joe asked. Destroyed, I think. At least, that particular one. Jack frowned. But there will be others. The plan to awaken beings in the empty wasn't his alone. Charlie perched on the edge of the bed. So we're still in danger? Even with your blood purification light show? My blood wasn't purified, Jack corrected. I redirected its power. The ritual failed, but my blood remains what it is, Nephilim Warlock, and whatever remains of Harry Potter's magic. Joe leaned against the doorframe, expression thoughtful. So angels will still want you dead, demons will still want you captured, and we're back to square one? Not exactly, Jack said slowly. The angels witnessed the ritual's failure. They saw me prevent the empty from being opened. That might buy us consideration, if not acceptance. Politics in heaven? Charlie raised an eyebrow. Angels with different opinions? Factions, more likely, Jack explained. Some strictly follow orders. Others may recognize the value in having a Nephilim willing to work against Hell's interests. Joe considered this. An alliance of convenience? Possibly, Jack nodded. It's our best hope for something resembling peace. Charlie brightened. So we might not have to spend the rest of our lives running from both sides of the cosmic war? That's an upgrade. Don't celebrate yet, Joe cautioned. We need to figure out our next move. Mom suggested we lay low for at least a few weeks. Jack tried to stand, discovering his legs weren't quite ready to cooperate. Charlie and Joe moved immediately to support him, one on each side. Easy there, Charlie admonished. Superpowered or not, you nearly burned yourself out with that spell. The close contact brought back memories of their fireside conversation before the attack, the unspoken things between himself and Joe, the complex dynamic forming among the three of them. Thank you, Jack said simply. Both of you. For everything. Joe's arm tightened around his waist. We're partners, remember? Where you go, we go. The Three Musketeers. Charlie added cheerfully. Except with more shotguns and magical powers. Jack laughed, then winced as the movement jarred his still recovering body. How about we start with breakfast? I'm starving. They helped him to the safe house's small kitchen, where the remnants of Charlie's cooking attempts created an impressive chaos. Despite the mess, or perhaps because of it, the scene felt domestic, normal in a way Jack had rarely experienced in either of his lives. As they ate and planned and bickered good-naturedly over the best next steps, Jack found himself watching them both, Joe with her practical competence and hard-won hunter wisdom, Charlie with her boundless enthusiasm and surprising emotional insight. Each remarkable in their own way. Each becoming essential to him. Earth to Jack. Charlie waved a hand before his face. You're doing the staring into space thing again. Sorry. He smiled. Just thinking. About? Joe prompted. Jack considered his answer carefully. About second chances, he said finally. and how sometimes they turn out better than you could have imagined. Something shifted in Joe's expression, understanding, perhaps. She reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. After a moment, Charlie placed her hand atop both of theirs, completing the connection. To second chances? Charlie declared, as if making a toast. And whatever comes next. Whatever came next, Jack realized, they would face together. It wasn't the life Harry Potter had imagined for himself after defeating Voldemort. It wasn't the normal existence Jack Sullivan had occasionally longed for during years of solitary hunting. It was something new. Something unexpected. And for the first time since awakening in this world with memories of another, Jack felt truly, completely home. Chapter 3. 3 Hearts Against the Dark. 4 months could change everything. Jack Sullivan stood at the window of their rented farmhouse, watching the Nebraska sunrise paint the cornfields gold. Behind him, Charlie's soft snoring mingled with the quiet sounds of Joe cleaning weapons at the kitchen table. Normal morning noises that had become precious to him. Since the ritual's failure, they'd established a tenuous peace with heaven. Bartholomew had returned 2 weeks after the incident, his rigid angelic demeanor unchanged but his message significantly altered. "Your actions have earned consideration," he'd stated flatly. "Heaven acknowledges your choice to close the door rather than allow corruption to spread. You remain an abomination, but a useful one." Charlie had snorted at that. "Heavenly PR needs serious work." The terms were straightforward. Jack would help identify and stop demonic plots involving the empty, and in return, the angels would refrain from smiting him on sight. Not friendship, but a cold alliance of mutual interest. Hell was less accommodating. 3 separate demon attacks in as many months had proven their continued interest in Jack's unique blood. Each assault more coordinated than the last, suggesting organization behind the chaos, someone pulling strings, someone with plans. "Thinking deep thoughts?" Joe asked, startling Jack from his reverie. She stood beside him now, hair tousled from sleep, a mug of coffee cradled in her hands. "Just appreciating the quiet," he replied, accepting the second mug she offered. Joe's eyebrow arched skeptically. "Right. Because your face always looks that intense when you're relaxing." Jack smiled ruefully. "Am I that transparent?" "Only to people who know what to look for." She bumped his shoulder lightly with her own, a casual intimacy that had developed between them. "What's really on your mind?" Jack sipped his coffee, organizing his thoughts. "For months ago, we were running for our lives. Now we're practically domesticated." "I wouldn't go that far," Joe objected. "We killed a Rugura last week." "Date night, hunter style," Charlie chimed in groggily from the couch where she'd fallen asleep researching. She stretched, laptop balanced precariously on her stomach. "Normal couples do dinner and movies. We do diners and monsters. We're not a normal couple," Joe pointed out. "True," Charlie agreed, sitting up. "We're a throuple. Or a trio. Or whatever the non-weird term is for 3 people who hunt together, live together, and occasionally save the world together." The label hung in the air, acknowledged but not quite defined. The evolution of their relationship had been gradual, born of shared danger, mutual respect, and something deeper that had grown in the quiet moments between hunts. Jack and Joe had crossed the line from partners to lovers first, their connection sparking into flame during a tense hunt in Colorado. Charlie had remained their friend and companion, until a near-death experience in Louisiana had crystallized what they all already knew, that their bond transcended conventional boundaries, that the 3 of them were stronger, better, more complete together than apart. "Speaking of saving the world," Joe said, deftly changing the subject. "Any word from your angelic liaison?" Jack shook his head. "Bartholomew's been silent since the Tulsa incident. I think Heaven's reassessing after losing 3 of their soldiers." The Tulsa incident had been a turning point, angels and hunters working together to prevent a mass demonic possession, only to discover the entire situation was a trap. 3 angels dead, 2 hunters critically wounded, and more questions than answers about the demon's ultimate goal. "That trap was too well orchestrated," Charlie said, joining them with her own coffee. Whoever's coordinating these attacks knows how angels operate, knows their weaknesses. A demon that sophisticated suggests upper management. Joe agreed grimly. Jack turned from the window, decision made. Which is why we need to stop playing defense. We need to identify who's behind this and take the fight to them. Bold strategy. Charlie nodded. I like it. Just one tiny problem. We have no idea who's in charge, where they are, or how to find them. Actually, Jack said slowly, I might have a way. Joe and Charlie exchanged glances, the look they shared whenever Jack was about to suggest something dangerously unconventional. Why do I already hate this plan? Joe muttered. Jack placed his mug on the windowsill, expression resolved. I've been researching a tracking ritual. Something that could identify the source of the attacks by following the magical signature back to its origin. Sounds reasonable so far. Charlie commented. It requires Nephilim blood. Jack continued, and direct contact with a demonic essence. Essentially, I'd be creating a temporary connection between myself and whatever demon is coordinating these attacks. And there it is. Joe sighed. The part where you put yourself in ridiculous danger. It's controlled danger. Jack argued. I'd be connected to the demon's essence, not the demon itself. Think of it as tapping a phone line rather than confronting the caller directly. Charlie frowned, already reaching for her laptop. What's the catch? There's always a catch with blood magic. Jack hesitated just long enough to confirm their suspicions. Jack. Joe prompted, arms crossed. Full disclosure. The connection goes both ways. He admitted reluctantly. While I'm tracing them, they might sense me looking. And the ritual would temporarily amplify my Nephilim signature, making me more visible to supernatural entities. So you'd be painting a celestial target on your back while mentally connecting to an unknown high-ranking demon. Charlie summarized. That's not a plan. That's a suicide mission. Not if we prepare properly. Jack insisted. I've been designing protective wards specifically for this purpose. With your help. He nodded to Charlie. And proper backup. He turned to Joe. The risk is manageable. Joe studied him, recognizing the determined set of his jaw. You've already decided to do this, haven't you? I've decided it's our best option. Jack corrected. But I won't do it without both of you on board. We're in this together. The declaration hung in the air between them, not just about the ritual, but about everything. Their partnership, their relationship, their future. Charlie broke the tension first. Well, if we're doing this monumentally stupid thing, we're going to do it right. I'm going to need coffee. Lots of coffee. And Ellen's contacts for rare materials. Joe held Jack's gaze a moment longer before nodding sharply. Fine. But we establish clear safety protocols. And we call in backup, trusted hunters positioned around the perimeter, just in case. Jack felt tension ease from his shoulders. Their support meant everything to him, a foundation that Harry Potter had known with Ron and Hermione, that Jack Sullivan had rediscovered with these two remarkable women. Thank you, he said simply. Charlie snorted as she began typing furiously. Don't thank us yet. If this goes sideways, I reserve the right to say I told you so for eternity. Noted. Jack smiled. Joe moved closer, lowering her voice. Promise me one thing. If it gets too dangerous, if you feel yourself slipping, you break the connection immediately. No heroics. Jack covered her hand with his. I promise. The warmth in her eyes shifted to something more determined as she turned to the room at large. All right, let's get to work. We've got a demon to hunt. Preparation took 3 weeks, gathering rare materials, designing overlapping protection systems, coordinating with trusted hunters for backup. Charlie transformed their farmhouse living room into a war room, walls covered with research and ritual diagrams. Joe turned the barn into an armory, weapons arranged for every contingency. Jack spent the time refining his abilities, pushing the boundaries of what his unique nature could accomplish. The ritual would require precise control, drawing on Nephilim power without unleashing it fully, maintaining awareness across multiple planes of existence simultaneously. The night before the ritual, Jack found Charlie alone on the porch, laptop illuminating her face as she made final adjustments to their protection grid. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, settling beside her on the swing. "Too wired," she admitted. "Brain won't shut off." She glanced at him sideways. "You know, in the fantasy novels I grew up reading, the night before the big magical ritual is when characters typically have deep, meaningful conversations about their feelings and make dramatic declarations. Just in case things go badly." Jack smiled at her transparency. "Is that your way of asking if I want to talk?" "Maybe." Charlie closed her laptop, facing him fully. "We haven't really discussed what happens after we identify this demon. Or what happens if something goes wrong tomorrow." "Nothing will go wrong," Jack assured her, with more confidence than he felt. "Right, because our plans always work out exactly as expected." Charlie's sarcasm couldn't quite hide her concern. "Seriously, Jack. This ritual is dangerous, even with all our precautions." Jack nodded, acknowledging the truth in her words. "I know. But the alternative is waiting for them to come after us again, possibly hurting more people in the process." "Very hero complex of you." Charlie's tone softened. "Very Harry Potter." The casual reference to his past life no longer jarred him as it once had. Over months of living together, fighting together, he'd shared more of his previous existence with both women, stories of Hogwarts, of friends left behind, of lessons learned and sacrifices made. "Harry would have done the same," Jack admitted. "Rushed in to protect others, often without enough planning." "And how did that usually work out for him?" Jack laughed softly. "Point taken. But this is different. I'm not alone this time." Charlie's hand found his in the darkness. "No, you're not. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about." Something in her tone made Jack turn toward her more fully. "What is it?" "This thing between us, you, me, and Joe." Charlie gestured vaguely with her free hand. "It's good, right? It feels right?" "It feels more than right," Jack said quietly. "It feels necessary. Like finding pieces I didn't know were missing." Charlie's smile was quick and relieved. "Good. That's good. Because I've been thinking." She trailed off, uncharacteristically hesitant. "Dangerous pastime," Jack teased gently. "Ha ha." Charlie rolled her eyes. "I'm being serious here. If we survive this ritual and whatever comes after, I think we should make this official." "Whatever this is." Jack blinked in surprise. "Official? Not like marriage official. Obviously that's not legally a thing for 3 people." She waved dismissively. "But some kind of commitment ceremony. Something that acknowledges what we are to each other." The idea settled in Jack's chest with surprising rightness. In his first life, Harry Potter had assumed a traditional path: marriage to Ginny, children, the family he never had growing up. But Jack Sullivan's existence had never aligned with tradition. Why should his heart? "Have you discussed this with Joe?" he asked carefully. "Not in detail. But she may have mentioned something similar after that close call in Baton Rouge." Charlie squeezed his hand. "Just think about it, okay? After tomorrow. After we deal with our demon problem." Jack nodded, lifting their joined hands to place a kiss on her knuckles. "I will." The screen door creaked as Joe stepped onto the porch, shotgun balanced casually over one shoulder. "Perimeter secure," she reported, then narrowed her eyes at their expressions. "What are you two conspiring about?" "The future," Charlie answered simply. Joe settled on Jack's other side, completing their circle. "Ambitious topic for the night before a dangerous ritual. Charlie thinks we should plan for after," Jack explained. "Make sure we have something to work toward." Understanding dawned in Joe's eyes. "She told you about the commitment idea. You two have been discussing me behind my back?" Jack asked, amused rather than offended. "More like discussing us," Joe clarified. "All 3 of us. What we want." "And what do you want, Joe Harvell?" Jack asked softly. Joe wasn't someone who easily voiced emotional truths. Her expression grew serious as she considered her answer. I want this, she said finally. Us. Fighting together, living together. I spent my whole life in the hunting world, watching people I care about die. Watching them choose the job over connections, over love. She shook her head. I don't want that ending. Neither do I, Charlie affirmed. Jack looked between them, these two women who had accepted all parts of him, who fought at his side against heaven and hell, who loved fiercely and without reservation. Then let's make sure tomorrow goes according to plan, he said, wrapping an arm around each of them. We have a future to build. Dawn broke clear and cold on ritual day. The farmhouse hummed with activity as final preparations were made. 4 trusted hunters from Ellen's network had arrived to establish a protective perimeter around the property, Rufus Turner among them, still gruff but respectful since the Montana incident. This is either the bravest or dumbest thing I've ever seen hunters attempt, he commented as he inspected their setup. Probably both. The ritual space occupied the center of the barn, surrounded by concentric circles of protection, salt, iron filings, and more esoteric materials arranged in precise patterns. Carefully placed mirrors would allow Joe and Charlie to observe from outside the innermost circle while maintaining visual contact with Jack. Charlie made final adjustments to the surveillance equipment she'd integrated into their protection grid. Motion sensors are online. EMF detectors calibrated. Anything supernatural crosses our perimeter, we'll know. Joe methodically checked her weapons, shotgun with salt rounds, silver knife, iron crowbar, and the angel blade they'd recovered during the Tulsa incident. Physical defenses ready. Jack stood in the center circle, reviewing the ritual components one final time. His mother's grimoire lay open on a small table, alongside a silver bowl, ritual knife, and various herbs and minerals. The most important component, a small vial of sulfur collected from their last demonic encounter, sat apart from the others, its malevolent energy contained by warding symbols. It's time, he announced, looking up to meet his partner's concerned gazes. Joe approached the edge of the inner circle, expression resolute. Remember your promise. First sign of trouble, you break the connection. Jack nodded solemnly. I remember. Charlie joined them, tablet clutched against her chest like a shield. Protection grid is active. Rufus and the others are in position. Jack took a deep breath, centering himself. Once I begin, don't break the circles, no matter what happens. The barriers aren't just keeping things out, they're keeping the ritual's energy contained. We know the drill, Joe assured him. Just come back to us. Always, Jack promised. They retreated to their positions, and Jack began the ritual. He mixed herbs in the silver bowl, murmuring incantations his mother had taught him long ago. To these he added minerals that sparked and smoked when combined, materials Charlie had sourced from Ellen's network of supernatural suppliers. When the mixture was complete, Jack drew the ritual knife across his palm. Nephilim blood welled golden bright, falling into the bowl with a sizzle of power. The barn's lighting flickered as energy began to build, responding to the unique signature of his blood. Phase 1 complete, he called, voice steady despite the power now humming through his veins. The final component remained, the demonic essence contained in the vial of sulfur. Jack removed the protective symbols carefully, then appended the vial into the mixture. Black smoke curled upward as the substances combined, twisting into unnatural shapes before settling into the bowl. Jack placed his bleeding hand directly into the mixture, connecting his essence to the demonic residue. The effect was immediate and overwhelming, like plunging into ice water while simultaneously being burned. His senses expanded beyond physical limitations, stretching across planes of existence. Jack? Joe's voice seemed to come from a great distance. Your eyes. He couldn't answer, already deep in the trance state the ritual required. Through the supernatural connection, Jack sent his awareness outward, following the trace energy signature back toward its source. The sensation was similar to apparition as Harry Potter had known it, being pulled through space by an invisible force, but vastly more complex, moving not just through physical distance but through metaphysical layers. Impressions flashed through his consciousness: sulfur and smoke, whispered conversations in ancient languages, flickers of hellfire. The connection stretched thinner as he followed it deeper, tracing the demonic essence to its origin point. Then, abruptly, he hit a barrier, a wall of power so ancient and concentrated that his probing awareness recoiled. Behind that wall lurked something vast and terrible, a presence that radiated cold calculation and immense age. The presence stirred, sensing Jack's metaphysical touch. Curiosity rippled through the barrier, followed by recognition, then predatory interest. Nephilim, a voice like broken glass scraped across Jack's consciousness. How bold you've become! Jack tried to withdraw, to sever the connection, but the presence reached through their link with frightening speed, mental fingers grasping at his essence. Did you think yourself clever, little hybrid? Did you believe I wouldn't feel your clumsy probing? Jack fought to maintain the boundaries of his own mind as the presence pushed against them, searching for weaknesses. This was no ordinary demon. This was something primordial, something with power that rivaled the angels. I've been watching you for some time, the entity continued, its mental voice dripping with malice. The Nephilim who should not exist. The witch's son with the old soul. Such a fascinating convergence of power. With horrifying clarity, Jack realized the truth. This entity had engineered everything, from the church ghost to the ritual in Montana. Each encounter carefully designed to assess his abilities, to understand his nature. Now you've come to me willingly, the presence purred. Opened your mind. Created a bridge. Jack marshaled his defenses, drawing on every mental discipline he possessed, a clemency from his life as Harry Potter, meditation techniques his mother had taught him, the inherent resistance of Nephilim grace to outside influence. Who are you? He demanded, pushing back against the invasive presence. Amusement radiated through the connection. I've had many names across the millennia. The First Tempter. Lord of the Pit. Prince of Lies. But you may call me Lucifer. The name sent a shock of recognition through Jack. Not from his wizarding memories, but from his mother's teachings. Lucifer, the fallen archangel, heaven's most infamous rebel. Impossible, Jack countered. Lucifer is caged. Imprisoned. The presence, Lucifer, laughed, the sound like breaking bones. Caged, yes. But not silent. Not powerless. My influence reaches beyond my prison, Nephilim. Through those loyal to me. Through connections like the one you've so helpfully established. Horror dawned as Jack understood the trap he'd fallen into. The tracking ritual hadn't just allowed him to locate the source, it had created a pathway, a channel between himself and Lucifer. Your blood is the key, Lucifer continued. Nephilim blood carries creation's power. Add witch blood and an old soul, and you have the perfect conduit. Not just to the empty, but to my cage. Jack fought to break the connection, to sever the metaphysical link, but Lucifer's will pressed against his with overwhelming force. I think I'll keep this channel open, the fallen archangel decided. A direct line to my newest and most valuable asset. With savage determination, Jack gathered his power, all three aspects of his nature unified in desperate defense. Golden Nephilim light, green warlock energy, and the core essence that had once fueled Harry Potter's magic merged into a single focused force. No! He projected with all his strength, driving the combined power through the connection like a spear. Surprise flickered through Lucifer's presence, followed by rage as Jack's counterattack momentarily disrupted his control. The mental pressure eased just enough for Jack to begin withdrawing, pulling his consciousness back toward his physical form. This isn't finished, Lucifer snarled as the connection weakened. You've shown me the path now, Nephilim. I'll find you again. Jack severed the final strands of the connection with a mental slash that felt like tearing his own being. Reality crashed back into focus. The barn, the ritual circle, Joe and Charlie's frightened faces as they watched him through the protective barriers. Break the circle! He gasped, blood pouring from his nose as the backlash of terminated contact hit his physical form. Now! Joe didn't hesitate. using the iron crowbar to break the salt line of the innermost circle. The moment the barrier collapsed, the mixture in the silver bowl erupted in black flame, consuming itself in seconds. Charlie and Joe rushed to Jack's side as he collapsed, catching him before he hit the ground. His body convulsed, Nephilim grace flaring erratically beneath his skin in golden pulses. "What happened?" Joe demanded, helping him sit upright. "What did you see?" Jack struggled to form words through the aftershocks of mental combat. "Lucifer," he managed. "It's Lucifer." Charlie's face paled. "The devil? That Lucifer? He's behind everything." Jack continued, strength returning slowly. "The attacks, the blood ritual, all of it. He's imprisoned but reaching out through loyal demons." Joe's expression hardened. "And the tracking ritual? Backfired," Jack admitted grimly. "He sensed me looking. Used the connection to touch my mind." He shuddered at the memory of that alien presence invading his thoughts. "He knows what I am now. Knows everything." "Did he follow you back?" Charlie asked urgently. "Is the connection still open?" Jack concentrated, assessing his mental barriers. "No. I severed it completely. But he'll try to re-establish contact. He said my blood is the perfect conduit, not just to the empty, but to his cage." The implication settled over them with chilling weight. If Lucifer could use Jack's blood to create a pathway to freedom, then the Nephilim had just become the most hunted being in existence. Valuable to demons loyal to Lucifer, dangerous to angels protecting heaven, and caught squarely in the middle of a cosmic power struggle. "We need to move," Joe decided, already helping Jack to his feet. "If Lucifer can track you now, this location is compromised." "Not just move," Jack corrected, wiping blood from his face. "We need to hide, completely, from everything supernatural. And I need to learn how to shield my mind permanently against his influence." Charlie was already packing essential equipment, her movements efficient despite her obvious fear. "I'm guessing how to block Satan from your brain isn't covered in standard hunter training?" "No," Jack agreed. "But I think I know someone who might help." They drove for 16 hours straight, switching vehicles twice and taking elaborate precautions to cover their trail. Jack directed them to an isolated address in northern Michigan, a small cabin on the shores of Lake Superior, far from civilization. "My mother mentioned this place," he explained as they approached through thick pine forest. "A sanctuary for those hiding from supernatural threats. Run by someone who knows how to stay off heaven and hell's radar." The cabin looked ordinary enough: weathered logs, smoke curling from a stone chimney, a small dock extending into the lake. But Jack sensed the protections layered over the property, subtle but powerful wards unlike any he'd encountered before. Before they could reach the door, it swung open. A woman stood silhouetted against the warm light from within, tall, white-haired, with sharp eyes that assessed them instantly. She held no visible weapon, but power radiated from her in waves Jack could feel even from a distance. "I've been expecting you, Nephilim," she called, her voice carrying easily across the clearing. "Though you brought more company than I anticipated." Jack approached cautiously, Joe and Charlie flanking him protectively. "You know who I am?" The woman smiled thinly. "Elizabeth Sullivan's boy." "Yes, I know. Your mother and I corresponded for years before her death. She feared this day might come." Surprise rippled through Jack. "You knew my mother?" "Pamela Barnes." The woman introduced herself with a slight bow. "Psychic, witch, occasional pain in heaven's backside. Your mother helped me establish this place, a blind spot in supernatural surveillance." She gestured them forward. "Come inside before something notices you. The wards will hold better once you're within." The cabin's interior was larger than its exterior suggested, a spacious main room lined with bookshelves, various magical implements hanging from ceiling beams, and a large worktable covered in maps and crystals. The air smelled of herbs and wood smoke, comfortable and ancient simultaneously. "You've made quite a mess," Pamela commented as she closed the door behind them. "A tracking ritual connected directly to Lucifer? Not your wisest decision." Jack stiffened. How did you psychic? Pamela reminded him, tapping her temple. I saw it the moment you crossed my property line. The remnants of the connection are still visible in your aura, like spiritual scar tissue. Joe stepped forward protectively. Can you help him shield against further contact? Pamela studied Joe with interest. The hunter with the hunter's heart. Yes, I can help. But it won't be pleasant. Her gaze shifted to Charlie. And the tech witch? Interesting combination, the three of you. Charlie blinked at the designation. Tech witch? Your magic comes through circuits and code, but it's magic nonetheless. Pamela explained dismissively. She returned her attention to Jack. Blocking an archangel's influence requires more than simple protection spells. It requires reconfiguring your very essence, particularly difficult for someone with your complicated nature. I'm willing to try anything, Jack said firmly. Pamela nodded, unsurprised. Rest tonight. We begin at dawn. The process will take several days, and you'll need your strength. She gestured toward a hallway. There are rooms prepared. I suggest you all sleep while you can. After Pamela retired to her own quarters, the trio settled in the main room, too wired for sleep despite their exhaustion. Do we trust her? Joe asked quietly, checking sigil patterns carved into the cabin walls. My mother did, Jack replied. And I can sense the power in this place. The protections are real. Charlie had already connected to the cabin's surprisingly modern internet system, fingers flying across her keyboard. Finding nothing on Pamela Barnes and Hunter databases, but there are references to her in occult forums. She's legendary in psychic circles, supposedly can read thoughts, see through dimensions, and predict events with freaky accuracy. So, best case scenario, she helps Jack block Lucifer and we get a temporary safe haven. Joe summarized. Worst case, it's another trap. It's not a trap, Jack said with certainty. The energy here is clean, protective, like my mother's magic. Joe seemed to accept this, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. Then we do this. But Charlie and I are staying right by your side through whatever process she's planning. Wouldn't have it any other way, Jack assured her. They eventually settled into the small bedroom Pamela had indicated, unwilling to separate even for sleep. The single bed was barely large enough for three, but they made it work, Jack in the middle, Joe curled against his right side, Charlie on his left. Their breathing synchronized gradually as exhaustion claimed them. Just before sleep took him, Jack felt Joe's hand find his in the darkness. We'll beat this, she whispered. We'll beat him. Jack squeezed her fingers in silent agreement, Charlie's steady heartbeat against his other side providing additional comfort. Whatever faced them tomorrow, they would face it together. The problem, Pamela explained as dawn light filtered through the cabin windows, is that your mind exists simultaneously in multiple spiritual frequencies. They gathered around the large work table, which Pamela had cleared overnight and replaced with an intricate diagram drawn in what appeared to be silver ink. Candles burned at specific points around the pattern, their flames unnaturally still in the morning air. 3 distinct souls normally occupy 3 distinct vessels, she continued. But you, Jack Sullivan, contain aspects of 3 spiritual signatures in one body, Nephilim, Warlock, and the echo of your previous existence. Harry Potter, Charlie supplied. Pamela nodded. The wizard. Yes. This spiritual complexity creates gaps, places where outside influences can gain purchase. Lucifer found those gaps during your connection. So how do we close them? Joe asked pragmatically. We don't close them, Pamela corrected. We harmonize them. Bring the 3 aspects into alignment so they reinforce rather than undermine each other. She turned to Jack. But it requires surrendering completely to the process. No resistance, no holding back. Jack thought of clemency lessons with Snape, the struggle to open his mind then versus the need to integrate it now. I understand. Pamela gestured for him to sit at the center of the diagram. Your companions can observe, but cannot interfere once we begin. The process must remain uninterrupted. Joe and Charlie exchanged glances before nodding reluctant agreement. "What exactly are you going to do to him?" Charlie asked. "Strip him down to his component parts," Pamela said matter-of-factly. "Separate the three aspects of his nature, then reintegrate them properly." She noted their alarmed expressions and sighed. "Metaphysically speaking, his physical form remains intact." "Mostly reassuring," Charlie muttered. Jack settled cross-legged in the center of the diagram, feeling the latent power already humming through the silver lines. Pamela positioned herself opposite him, while Joe and Charlie stood at the edge of the worktable, tension evident in their postures. "Close your eyes," Pamela instructed. "Focus on your breathing. Feel the boundaries between your different natures." Jack complied, turning his awareness inward. He could sense the distinct energies within him, the warm golden flow of Nephilim grace, the earthy green current of his warlock heritage, and beneath both, the familiar core that had once channeled through a holly and phoenix feather wand. Pamela began chanting in a language older than Latin, her voice resonating with practiced power. The silver diagram beneath Jack began to glow, light climbing up through his body like vines seeking the sun. "I will touch each aspect of your nature in turn," Pamela's voice explained, though her chanting never ceased. "Do not resist the separation." The first touch came like a knife through butter, clean, precise, painless but profound. Jack felt his Nephilim essence being gently lifted away from his core, suspended separately within his consciousness. The sensation was disorienting but not painful, like a limb gone pleasantly numb. The second touch extracted his warlock nature, the connection to earth magic his mother had nurtured since birth. This separation brought a momentary ache, a phantom pain of loss quickly soothed by Pamela's continuing chant. The third touch reached deepest, drawing out the essence of Harry Potter, memories, magical affinity, the soul-deep knowledge that had transferred between lives. This separation hurt most, bringing tears to Jack's closed eyes as he experienced again the loss of his first life, his first family. "Open your eyes," Pamela commanded. Jack obeyed and gasped at what he saw. 3 distinct versions of himself stood in a triangle around his seated form, a luminous golden figure radiating angelic power, a grounded, green-tinged form with his mother's eyes, and a slighter figure in wizard's robes, lightning scar visible on his forehead. "These are not ghosts or duplicates," Pamela explained, her own eyes glowing white with channeled power. "They are aspects of your single soul, visualized separately for the work we must do." Joe and Charlie stared in amazement at the manifestation. The Harry Potter aspect turned toward them, a sad smile crossing his transparent face as he inclined his head in greeting. "Each aspect must acknowledge the others," Pamela continued. "Each must consent to full integration." The Nephilim aspect spoke first, voice resonating with otherworldly harmonics. "I am power without limit, grace without boundary. I can destroy or create at will." The warlock aspect responded, voice earthier, grounded. "I am connection to natural law, to the rhythms of life and death. I bend reality through understanding, not force." The wizard aspect completed the triangle, his voice achingly familiar to Jack's inner ear. "I am experience, memory, the lessons of a life fully lived. I bring wisdom earned through sacrifice." Jack looked between these 3 parts of himself, understanding dawning. He had been treating them as separate powers to draw upon, distinct tools for different situations. But they were not separate, they were him, facets of a single, complex being. "Speak to them," Pamela instructed. "Acknowledge what each has given you, what each has cost you." Jack turned first to his Nephilim aspect, golden and terrible in its beauty. "You give me strength beyond human limitation, power to protect those I love. But your visibility draws danger to everyone around me. Your nature sets me apart from humanity." The Nephilim aspect nodded solemnly, accepting the truth. Jack addressed his warlock self next. "You connect me to my mother's legacy, to the natural world and its magics. You ground me when angel power would consume me. But your blood combined with Nephilim grace makes me a target for those seeking to exploit such a combination." The warlock aspect touched his chest in acknowledgement. Finally, Jack faced Harry Potter, The boy who lived, the chosen one, the identity he had once claimed as his only self. You are my foundation. My first experiences of love and sacrifice, of friendship and purpose. You taught me courage and compassion. But your need to save everyone, your willingness to die for the cause, these tendencies still drive me towards self-destruction. The wizard aspect smiled sadly, green eyes, so like Jack's own, bright with understanding. No. Pamela's voice cut through the emotional moment. You must choose integration. Not suppression of any aspect, but true harmony. Are you prepared for this? Jack looked toward Joe and Charlie, finding strength in their steady presence. I am. Pamela nodded and resumed her chanting, the silver diagram pulsing in time with her words. The three aspects began to move, circling Jack's seated form with increasing speed until they became blurs of color, gold, green, and the distinctive red and gold of Gryffindor. Embrace them. Pamela commanded. All of them. Without reservation. Jack stood within the circle of his spinning selves and opened his arms wide, accepting all that he was, Nephilim, Warlock, and the echo of Harry Potter. The aspects responded, spiraling inward, merging with his physical form in successive waves of intense sensation. Power coursed through him, different from anything he'd experienced before, not three separate energies but a single, harmonized force. Golden green light with threads of red pulsed beneath his skin, settling into a steady glow that illuminated him from within before gradually fading to a subtle radiance. Pamela's chanting ceased. The silver diagram dimmed, its purpose fulfilled. It is done, she announced, exhaustion evident in her voice. The integration is complete. Jack felt whole. More completely himself than he had since awakening in this world with memories of another. The boundaries between his different abilities had dissolved, leaving a unified consciousness that could access all aspects of his nature simultaneously. Jack? Joe's voice broke through his wonder. Are you okay? He turned to find both women watching him with mingled hope and concern. I'm more than okay, he assured them. I'm integrated. Balanced. Charlie approached cautiously. You look different. Your eyes. Jack caught his reflection in a nearby mirror. His eyes now held a permanent hint of gold around the irises, Nephilim power no longer completely concealed but harmoniously expressed. Will this block Lucifer? Joe asked Pamela directly. The psychic nodded, pouring herself a generous measure of whiskey from a nearby cabinet. The archangel found purchase in the gaps between his fractured nature. Those gaps no longer exist. He may still attempt contact, but Jack now has the spiritual coherence to resist. Relief washed through the room. Jack reached for Joe and Charlie, drawing them into a tight embrace. Thank you, he murmured. For being here. For believing in me. Always, Charlie whispered back. Pamela watched their interaction with knowing eyes. The bond between you three is unusual, she observed. Powerful. It functions as an additional layer of protection. Souls entwined create patterns difficult for outside forces to penetrate. Joe raised an eyebrow. Are you saying our relationship has supernatural benefits? All genuine love has power, Pamela replied simply. Yours simply manifests in ways useful against archangels. She took a long swallow of whiskey. You can remain here while Jack adjusts to his integrated state. The cabin's protections will hold. And after that? Charlie asked. Pamela's expression turned grave. After that you run. You hide. You stay ahead of both heaven and hell until you find a more permanent solution. Or, Jack said thoughtfully, we take the fight to Lucifer. 3 pairs of eyes turned to him in varying degrees of disbelief. You want to fight the devil? Joe asked incredulously. The actual devil? Not directly, Jack clarified. But now that I know who's behind the attacks, we can be more strategic. Disrupt his plans instead of just reacting to them. Charlie shook her head in amazement. From running for our lives to actively sabotaging Satan. Your life goals are really something, Sullivan. Despite the gravity of the situation, Jack smiled. The integration had brought not just spiritual harmony but clarity of purpose. Harry Potter had faced his prophesied enemy directly. Jack Sullivan would need to be smarter, more patient, playing a longer game against a more ancient adversary. We'll need allies, he acknowledged. Angels who oppose Lucifer, hunters with experience, anyone with knowledge about the cage that holds him. A resistance, Joe summarized, her expression shifting from skepticism to consideration. Fighting smart instead of just fighting. Exactly. Pamela observed their exchange with interest. Your mother would be proud, she told Jack. Elizabeth always believed you were meant for more than just surviving. The mention of his mother sent a pang through Jack's newly integrated heart. Did she know? About my past life, I mean. She suspected. Pamela confirmed. Children born with old souls often show signs, knowledge they shouldn't possess, skills beyond their years. She recognized something ancient in you alongside something brand new. Jack absorbed this information, finding comfort in the knowledge that his mother had understood more than he'd realized. Rest now, Pamela advised, rising from the table. The integration process is energetically demanding. You'll need time to adjust before testing your new capabilities. As she left them alone in the main room, Joe turned to Jack with a mixture of exasperation and fondness. Only you would experience spiritual dismantling and reassembly, then immediately start planning to take down Satan. To be fair, Charlie interjected. It's very on brand for both Harry Potter and Jack Sullivan. Jack laughed, the sound freer than it had been in months. Some things transcend lives, I suppose? Joe's expression softened. Come on, hero. Let's get you horizontal before you collapse from magical exhaustion. They retired to the small bedroom once more, Jack indeed feeling the strain of the integration process as adrenaline faded. As he drifted towards sleep between his two partners, Jack felt a certainty settling in his soul, not just about their fight against Lucifer, but about their future together. Charlie had been right. When this immediate crisis passed, they needed to make their bond official. Whatever form that took, whatever challenges they faced, the three of them belonged together, a truth as fundamental as the newly integrated nature of his being. The next 3 days at Pamela's cabin became a different kind of training camp as Jack learned to access his unified abilities. The integration had not just removed vulnerabilities, it had enhanced his powers in unexpected ways. His telekinesis now operated with microscopic precision. His healing abilities extended to curing illness as well as injury. And most surprisingly, he discovered he could share portions of his power temporarily with others through deliberate contact. It's like a circuit completion, he explained as golden green energy flowed from his hands into Joe's, temporarily enhancing her strength and reflexes. I'm not giving you power so much as awakening what's already there. Joe tested the enhancement by leaping clear over a fallen log that would have previously required climbing. Useful, she admitted, landing with casual grace. But weird. Charlie proved especially receptive to the power sharing, her natural affinity for pattern recognition blending with the enhanced perception to create something approaching supernatural intuition. It's like seeing code in everything, she described, eyes wide with wonder as Jack's energy flowed through her system. Not just electronic systems, but in nature, in physical objects. The underlying patterns of reality. Pamela observed these experiments with professional interest. The Nephilim witch combination was already unprecedented. She noted, add the spiritual resonance from your previous life, and you've essentially created a new classification of supernatural being. Just what I always wanted, Jack remarked dryly. To be even more unique. On the fourth morning, as they practiced in the clearing behind the cabin, Pamela emerged with an urgent expression. Company coming, she announced without preamble. Angelic signature approaching from the southwest. Jack immediately reached out with his enhanced senses, identifying the familiar energy pattern. It's Bartholomew. How did he find us? Joe demanded, weapon already in hand. I thought this place was hidden from supernatural detection. It is, Pamela confirmed. Which means he followed something else, or someone helped him. They gathered at the cabin's edge as a figure materialized at the tree line, Bartholomew in his pristine suit, expression as impassive as ever. "The wards will hold," Pamela assured them. "He can see us, but cannot approach without invitation." Jack stepped forward to the boundary. "Bartholomew, how did you find this location?" The angel studied him with clinical interest. "Your integration has altered your energy signature, Nephilim. Interesting development." He clasped his hands behind his back formally. "As for finding you, heaven has been aware of this sanctuary for some time. We respect its neutrality under normal circumstances." "What's changed?" Jack asked, though he suspected the answer. "Lucifer," Bartholomew stated flatly. "Our intelligence confirms he has established contact with you. This represents an unacceptable escalation." Joe moved to stand beside Jack. "If you're here to threaten us, I am here to offer assistance," Bartholomew interrupted, surprising them all. "Heaven's position has evolved in light of recent events." Charlie joined them at the boundary. "You're saying angels want to help us now? That's a pretty dramatic policy shift. Self-interest, not altruism, motivates this offer," Bartholomew clarified. "Lucifer's interest in the Nephilim presents a greater threat than the Nephilim himself. Strategic priorities have adjusted accordingly." Jack considered the angel's words carefully. "What exactly are you offering?" "Information. Resources. Conditional protection." Bartholomew's gaze remained fixed on Jack. "In exchange for your cooperation in preventing Lucifer's influence from spreading. An alliance," Jack translated, "against a common enemy. A temporary arrangement of mutual benefit," Bartholomew corrected. "Nothing more." Pamela stepped forward, her expression guarded. "Angels aren't known for their flexible interpretations of orders. What does heaven really want with him?" Bartholomew's eyes flicked to her with cool recognition. "Pamela Barnes. Heaven remembers your interventions in celestial matters." "Fondly, I hope," she replied with mock sweetness. The angel ignored her sarcasm. "Heaven's interest is singular, preventing Lucifer's escape from his cage. The Nephilim's blood represents a potential pathway. We prefer that pathway remain closed." "So you're not offering to help Jack?" Joe concluded. "You're offering to help yourselves by keeping tabs on him. The practical outcome is identical," Bartholomew stated. "Protection in exchange for cooperation." Jack exchanged glances with his partners, a silent communication passing between them. Building a resistance against Lucifer would require allies, even uncomfortable ones. And having heaven's resources could prove valuable, provided they maintained independence. "We'll consider your offer," Jack decided. "But we need details. Exactly what information, what resources, what protection. And what you expect in return." Bartholomew nodded once. "Acceptable. I will return tomorrow with specific terms." His gaze traveled over the integrated sigils now visible on Jack's skin, subtle gold and green patterns that hadn't been there before. "The work done here was impressive. Your vulnerability to direct influence has been significantly reduced." Without waiting for response, the angel vanished with a sound like rustling wings. "Well," Charlie broke the silence. "Angels as frenemies. That's new." Pamela looked troubled. "Be cautious. Angels define cooperation differently than humans do. Their idea of protection may be more restrictive than you anticipate. We won't agree to anything that compromises our freedom," Jack assured her. "But having heaven's intelligence on Lucifer's activities could be invaluable." Joe nodded slowly. "If we're really building a resistance, we need every advantage. Even angelic ones." They spent the remainder of the day planning, preparing contingencies, and establishing their non-negotiable terms for any agreement with heaven. By nightfall, a framework had emerged, one that would allow them to operate independently while maintaining lines of communication with angelic forces. As darkness settled over the cabin, Jack found himself drawn to the lakeshore. He stood at the end of the small dock, watching moonlight dance across Lake Superior's vast surface. The integration had heightened his perception of natural beauty, colors more vivid, patterns more evident, the underlying harmony of creation more accessible to his senses. Soft footsteps announced Joe and Charlie's approach. They joined him silently, one on each side, their presence completing a circle that had come to feel essential. "Penny for your thoughts," Charlie offered after a comfortable silence. Jack smiled, watching the stars reflect in the dark water. "I was thinking about choices. How different my life might have been if I'd fought against what I am instead of accepting it." "You didn't have much choice about being a Nephilim," Joe pointed out. "No," Jack agreed. "But I had choices about how to respond to it. Whether to hide or to use my abilities. Whether to trust others or remain isolated." He looked between them. "Whether to let myself love again after losing everything once before." The word hung in the night air, love spoken plainly for the first time between them. Not just implied or demonstrated, but named. Charlie's hand found his, fingers intertwining. "Pretty big word there, Sullivan. But accurate," Joe added quietly, her shoulder pressing against his. Another silence fell, comfortable and weighted with meaning. Jack gazed up at the stars, thinking of all that had brought him to this moment: death and rebirth, memory and discovery, fear and courage. "When this is over," he said finally, "when we've established our position with heaven and begun countering Lucifer's plans, I want us to make this official." Charlie's grip tightened on his hand. "Define official." "A commitment ceremony," Jack clarified. "Like you suggested before. Something that acknowledges what we are to each other, not just partners in hunting, but in everything." Joe's expression remained carefully neutral, but her voice betrayed emotion when she spoke. "You sure about that? Life expectancy in hunting isn't great under normal circumstances. Add angels and demons to the mix. All the more reason," Jack countered gently. "I've lived 2 lives now. I've learned that time isn't guaranteed, that moments of happiness should be claimed when possible." Charlie nodded vigorously. "Team seize the day. I'm in." She looked past Jack to Joe. "What about you, Harvelle? Ready to make an honest Nephilim of him? And me, by extension?" Joe's carefully maintained reserve cracked, a smile breaking through. "You two are impossible, you know that? But you love us anyway." Charlie pressed, grinning. "God help me, I do." Joe shook her head in mock exasperation. "Fine. When we're not actively running for our lives or fighting cosmic battles, we'll have our very own hunter commitment ceremony. Mom will be thrilled." Jack laughed, wrapping an arm around each of them. "Ellen will probably officiate with a shotgun in one hand and a flask in the other. Tradition demands it." Joe agreed, relaxing against him. They stood together under the vast Michigan sky, 3 hearts aligned against whatever darkness might come, a Nephilim with an old soul, a hunter born to the life, and a hacker who'd found her calling in the supernatural world. An impossible combination that somehow formed a perfect whole. Tomorrow would bring negotiations with angels. The days after would launch their campaign against Lucifer's influences. The future held challenges they could barely imagine. But tonight, under stars that had witnessed countless lives and deaths, beginnings and endings, they made their choice, to face it all together, bound by something stronger than fate or prophecy or supernatural power. Love, freely given and received. The most powerful magic Jack had known in either of his lives. 6 weeks later, the farmhouse in Nebraska became a different kind of sanctuary. Bartholomew's offer had evolved into a workable arrangement. Heaven provided intelligence on Lucifer's earthly operatives, while Jack, Joe, and Charlie dismantled the demon's network methodically. Angels maintained distance but offered emergency intervention if certain thresholds of danger were crossed. The Nephilim remained independent but aligned with Heaven's interest in keeping Lucifer contained. The arrangement wasn't perfect, but it created breathing room, enough security to plan not just their next tactical move, but their future. Which had led to this moment, their commitment ceremony, held at sunset in the field behind the farmhouse. Ellen had indeed officiated, though she'd left the shotgun inside in deference to the occasion. Rufus Turner stood as witness alongside Pamela Barnes and a small gathering of trusted hunters and allies. No formal religion governed the ceremony they designed. How could it, with a Nephilim at its center? Instead, they created something unique, drawing elements from hunter traditions, magical binding rituals, and the simple power of spoken vows. They stood in a triangle formation within a circle of protection symbols, not for defense this time, but for blessing. Each wore simple clothing in colors that reflected their essence: Jack in deep blue, Joe in burnished gold, Charlie in vibrant green. In the hunting life, Ellen began, her voice strong despite the emotion evident in her eyes. We don't often get to celebrate beginnings. We mark endings, funerals, pyres, last stands. But today, we recognize something rare and precious: 3 lives choosing to intertwine, 3 hearts aligned against the dark. She turned to Jack first. Jack Sullivan, Nephilim Warlock, and carrier of an old soul. Do you commit yourself to these 2 women? To protect them, support them, fight alongside them, and love them for as long as your extraordinary life may last? Jack's eyes shimmered with golden light as he answered, I do. In this life and whatever may follow. Ellen nodded, turning to her daughter. Joanna Beth Harvelle, hunter-born and raised, daughter of hunters. Do you commit yourself to this man and this woman? To stand with them against all enemies, to share their burdens, to build a home in the spaces between battles for as long as you draw a breath? Joe's steady gaze never wavered. I do. Until my final hunt and beyond. Ellen turned finally to Charlie. Charlie Bradberry, who chose this life and these companions when you could have walked away. Do you commit yourself to this man and this woman? To bring your unique gifts to their aid, to create family where none existed before, to love without reservation for all your days. Charlie beamed, tears tracking unashamedly down her cheeks. I absolutely do. In this world and any virtual ones I might hack later. A ripple of laughter passed through the gathering at her addendum. Ellen produced 3 cords, red, white, and gold, woven together into a single braid. Join hands in the center. They formed a 3-way clasp, hands stacked together. Ellen wound the braided cord around their wrists, binding them physically as they had already bound themselves emotionally. With this cord I acknowledge your commitment before these witnesses, she declared. Not a bond of ownership or limitation, but a freely chosen partnership. 3 distinct individuals forming a singular whole. As the final loop of cord settled into place, Jack channeled a small measure of his power, just enough to illuminate the binding with golden green light that sank into the fibers, making them glow briefly before returning to normal appearance. By hunter's tradition, Ellen continued, producing a silver knife. Bonds sealed in blood cannot be broken. Each made a small cut across their palm, allowing their blood to mingle where their hands joined at the center of the binding cord. Jack's golden-tinged Nephilim blood, Joe's hunter blood strengthened by generations of survival, Charlie's blood now subtly altered by repeated exposure to supernatural energies, different but compatible, combining into something new. What is bound in blood and love, let no force in heaven, hell, or earth tear asunder. Ellen concluded, her voice thick with emotion. You are committed, one to another, now and always. Pamela stepped forward, adding her blessing as a representative of the magical community. May your powers strengthen each other. May your weaknesses be covered by each other's strengths. May you find in your union the balance that eludes most seekers of truth. The ceremony concluded with a hunter's blessing, salt mixed with holy water sprinkled in a circle around them, not to repel evil but to consecrate their commitment as something worth protecting. As the formal ritual ended and celebration began, Jack found himself momentarily apart, watching Joe laugh with her mother while Charlie enthusiastically explained something to Pamela using elaborate hand gestures. These were his people now. His family. Not replacing what Harry Potter had lost, but creating something new from that foundation of love and sacrifice. Bartholomew had appeared briefly at the ceremony's edge, not participating but observing with what almost looked like curiosity. Even heaven, it seemed, recognized the significance of what they'd created together. The angel had departed with a formal nod that Jack chose to interpret as reluctant approval. The future remained uncertain. Lucifer continued to influence events from his cage. Demons still hunted for Nephilim blood. Angels still watched with suspicious eyes. The balance they'd established was precarious at best. But for tonight, none of that mattered. Tonight was about possibility, about commitment, about three hearts aligned against whatever darkness might come. Joe appeared at his side, slipping her hand into his. "Penny for your thoughts, Nephilim." "Just appreciating the moment," Jack replied, squeezing her fingers gently. "It's not often one gets a second chance at happiness. Or a first chance at a three-way commitment ceremony," Charlie added, joining them with glasses of Ellen's potent homebrewed mead. "Pretty sure we're breaking new ground here." Jack accepted the glass, raising it in toast. "To new beginnings. To family," Joe added. "To completely redefining Three's company," Charlie finished with a wink. As night settled over the Nebraska farmhouse, stars emerging in the clear sky above, Jack Sullivan, once Harry Potter, now something entirely his own, felt the integrated aspects of his nature resonate with contentment. The Nephilim, the Warlock, and the echo of the boy who lived all recognized the same truth, that love, freely given and returned, remained the most powerful magic in any world. Whatever challenges tomorrow might bring, tonight they celebrated not just survival, but triumph, three hearts beating as one, stronger together than apart, a light against the gathering dark. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.